What up, everybody? Welcome to Synctank. I'm Andreas. I'm wearing you can see I'm Andreas because it says so, but you could wear this too if you want to get some of this merch. I'm trying to step up the merch game. Awesome. Go to the Xirtus or andreas.me.com, whatever. Go to the Discord, click on the link. Buy yourself some of the new Flamingo sea shoes. Those are crazy. Anyway, today we've got Paranoid American joining us. Thomas, how's it going? How you been?
Hello. I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
And then, of course, Eddie's here, and so is David. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
I always like to do it at ask two people at the same time because it's kind of like this weird, like, hello duel, like the Cowboys in the Old West with gun, but they have to be like, hello, you, yeah. What have you guys been up to this week? Let's start with Eddie. What have you been doing this week that you can talk about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I encourage people to check out my Twitter, which I plug at the end, right? But definitely some crazy news throughout the week. And
do you hear that? Am I the only one hearing that glitch?
Wait, hold on. Let's speak to me. Hello.
I think it's okay. That's all right. Yeah.
That's weird.
Just make sure you guys' phones aren't too close to your things. I think that's what causes it sometimes. Yeah.
So regarding well, I've been keeping track of Kanye West slowly getting lynched by Hollywood.
Yeah, weird. You know, it's weird because I saw all these people make fun of Scientologists, and there was no problem. They even made shows about it, but
they're like flaying him, slowly flaying him to death. Just little piece by piece. So
yeah,
I'm just watching. I'm just like, this guy is he was on what's that, Lex
Friedman.
Yeah. And he was on that show, and I think that was his last chance to apologize, and he just said, no. So well, nobody can do anything for you now. So that's my thing I'm tracking mostly, but there's some other news I mentioned, but yeah.
Legit. David, what about you?
I don't know. I'm interested to address the Kanye stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk I mean, I don't know. What have I been doing? Like, last night I was working on, when I do like album film pairing stuff and sync in general, I have to put aside like what my own proclivities are. So like, if I would prefer that something be a certain, I can't. Like, I just have to remain as objective as possible. And so learning just like a little bit, like this isn't really my area. Like, I don't know about what is it? Styles, Harry Styles.
Oh.
It's like Harry Styles, Fine Line, whatever. It's cool. I'm not opposed. But new film that just came out called "Don't Worry, Darling." Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah, highly recommend it. Whatever the case, great movie. Feels very much like a Black Mirror episode or something like that.
Olivia Wilde directed it, right?
Yes. So she did like one other movie, Booksmart, where it's actually the same person.
Olivia Wilde, the model girl from House,
Harry's girlfriend, basically.
Wow.
Right. Okay. So so she's in the film briefly towards the beginning. So there's a history of Harry Styles. I just learned this, and Taylor Swift. And so it turns out Taylor Swift's new album with the Harry Styles new film, so her album Midnights, incredibly synchronistic. So this is a whole project. I have to like go through and do the volume between the vocals and set a whole thing up. So that should hopefully be uploaded. I would think in the next week or so. But
bro, I should totally make trans shirts that have tattoos in the fabric. That's brilliant. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't forget his big monarch butterfly tattoo on his belly.
And,
and also
when you have your tramp stamp on the front, there's a problem. Am I right?
David, so we did talk about this last week, right? Regarding Taylor Swift's album, the new album.
I loved it.
That looks like the letter Yod, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's
you guys
and
you guys listened to Taylor's new album, but did you listen to Taylor's new album? I mean, really?
Had to.
Did you see the music videos and everything with like the stepsisters and the 13 o'clock? Did you see the one yesterday? What is it? Her new video that came out, Taylor Swift. She's got like 2 that came out in the last couple of days. I remember I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna watch it because it just came out a second ago, and then like 500,000 people saw it as well. Bejeweled, is that the one? No, is it? Okay, yeah, maybe it is. In Bejeweled, she does this thing where The stepsisters are all messing with her like Cinderella. She gets all bejeweled, and then where is it at? Oh yeah, right there. Boom. After she comes out of the thing, it's 13 o'clock. I don't know.
Death becomes her.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. I thought that was I mean, she's definitely going along with the magic symbolism. She's like, look, no, I'm a sorceress. It's cool.
Oh, totally.
It had a
So,
Hocus Pocus vibe to it.
Say it again.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it was almost right out of the Hocus Pocus too. Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
So there's a ridiculous resonance between her new album Midnights and many of the things that get said and the whole feel of it and how it relates to Don't Worry, Darling.
There was a video that was going around this week that was a new one to me, and I fell in love with it immediately. And it was comparing Taylor Swift to one of Anton LaVey's daughters, and it was like showing this striking resemblance between the two. And I just loved it because anything that ties back to Satanism in Hollywood and modern day is kind of like
they really do look a lot alike. Xena Shrek.
Yes.
Xena Shrek. Why I had to do it like Xena the Princess Warrior. Calm down, man. Zee. Okay. Xena Shrek. I mean, you gotta admit, I can't tell which one I think is prettier. I really can't. I like Xena. Xena was great. She got that Scotch chin. You know what I mean? It's like a whole thing going on. But they're both. Look at the kind of. There's a vibe. There's Yeah,
and she converted, right? She's no longer in the church. She's now.
Oh yeah, no. She took her dad's name away. She got rid of it, and she goes by Shrek as her last name. If you guys haven't watched my Smash Mouth Shrek episode, it's a lot about Xena Shrek.
Well, her husband's name is Shrek, right?
And not anymore. She just took his name, and they are together since the 90s. But she does like tantric and Vasyana meditation and all kinds of crazy, interesting Buddhist and Eastern. The connection between Buddhism and American Satanism is a lot stronger.
I'm pretty convinced that Katy Perry draws upon, I think I may have mentioned this before, but Kenneth Anger's whole trip. Like what Kenneth Anger was into, Katy Perry seems to repeatedly like address in her music. I feel like there's some interplay happening there, like that she's responding to like his call in some really weird ways.
That typical call response mechanic, right?
Yeah, with like decades in between, or many decades.
Did you guys see what happened to Katy Perry? It's all over the TikTok right now.
What's
she's having the same thing. She's having the same problem that Justin Bieber's having with his eye. Like,
oh really?
No.
Right. I thought she was kidding.
I'm sorry, but I have to like my original like assessment of like watching that, and then like. I don't know. I think what it is, she's got these giant freaking eyelashes and they're glued. And I think whatever happened, like on one side, like they came down and I think the glue like stuck and she couldn't like undo the glue. So if this keeps happening without eyelashes for her, then we know that there's like, okay, maybe it's time to look into Pfizer's accouability, but or whatever.
She keeps tapping the side of her eye. She never even touched her
I
eye.
never even thought that.
Like this.
I just assumed it was like the one eye. I thought that I had no idea. I saw the video. I figured she was just doing a thing. She's like,
even if it's glue, the sync is there. It doesn't care. I don't care. Like it's for me. Like at this point, it's like even what's intentional and unintentional as far as like nudge, not as good as a wink to a blind bat stuff. Like I don't, whatever.
Oh man. So I mean, there's some stuff going on with the media. I wanted to do this really quickly just for the sake of it. I mean, I can't get in trouble if PBS can't. I think that's messed up, right? So.
What's the rest of the scene? Have you seen this in context?
No, I still haven't.
Okay.
What other context do you need?
Yeah, I mean, he's literally got a kangaroo pouch with a phallus that he's hitting kids in the face with. I mean, there's got to be Dragon Tails.
Ooh, thank you, Eddie. I was
supposed to work on the show. Well,
okay.
I was supposed to work on that show at Sony. Yeah, but I got into trouble and I quit Sony.
So interesting that that you're the one who got into trouble and you didn't even do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a Hollywood question.
What was on the cutting room floor of that one?
Right. So, but Thomas and Eddie, both of you guys have kind of a familiarity with like children media and the people behind them. What do you think? How does this happen? It's kind of the first question I have.
Well, I kind of feel that I've been working with a lot of artists that got kind of like shacked away in their little like caves, and a lot of the times when you're working on these bigger names, especially if you're newer in the industry, you're working for almost peanuts just for the privilege of being able to have this like name attached to your resume starting out. So there's definitely some burnout, and an artist just saying like, I'm going to sneak some of this stuff in here just to see how far I can really push it. So there's absolutely an aspect of that. I mean, I'm guilty of that myself. We used to do ADR for like Nicktoons shows, and every once in a while you try to like sneak in something a little bit less than appropriate for a kid's show just to see, like if there was like a big crowd rioting outside of, like a school or something, you'd sneak in a couple little like, obscenities here and there, or just throw in like some funny little phrases and see if they made it when it actually airs. So that kind of thing kind of like reverberates through all the different stages of production.
I had a friend who was doing a kid's book he was illustrating for someone else's book. And so the whole thing was about this like kid with these ducks in the foreground. But so he couldn't handle it. Like in the background, there's a bush in like the back, and there's like a person yelling with the lady. And then, but you see a person yelling at the bush, but then you see the other side, it's a girl yelling at the bush. So there's obviously and then finally somebody's like disappeared and someone's looking in shock, but it's kind of blurry in the background. And then a bunch of people show up, and then like there's like a stretcher carrying someone away.
It's like a B plot. It's a B plot happening outside of the
never written down, but you have to like look into the picture and see what's going on, right? But yeah, Eddie, do you think that it's it's just as simple as, what do you call that? Like who's the guy who did 101 Dalmatians, and you think it's like Tim Burton going crazy drawing too many Dalmatians, and so he just decides to draw a dick on them all, or how does it happen?
I think there is like Thomas, his interpretation is that people, there's a lot of disgruntled worker in this very abusive industry. People working like peanuts for the dollar,
Right.
And well, even though we have a union, but it's still highly regulated. So there are a lot of people who are not very happy, and they want to select. I personally saw because when I was at Cal Arts, a lot of students will directly become, the superstar animator. That back when it's still 2D, but before these kids leave school, the recruiters from the cleanup and in between department, people who does the in between, clean up the drawings, those lower level artists department, those guys, the supervisor will come and recruit and students who don't have money to finish school or whatever, need the money right away. Hey, come join this department. Those guys, they would bring these dirty tapes, these pencil tests with Gaston with the bra, just full of hair, the breasts were popping out, and
then just like a bunch of like Tyler Durdens, just like inserting single frame of pornography into things, kind of deal.
That too, yeah. There's a whole bunch of them because it's a whole tape. It's a whole, and people all of us will gather around it because it's like a hush hush. The teacher didn't even know he sneaked in. He was not welcome. That supervisor is not welcome in our building. But he comes in and say, hey, "Join us. We do dirty drawings." So that's one thing. But then the other aspect, they use that to seduce the artist. Hey, you can play pranks in the production, and the other one will be like coordinated attacks, where I don't want to get myself too far in the left field, but a lot of like say the background artists for Simpsons, for example, right? The whole 9/11, the Simpsons, and all that crap, right? So a lot of these background layout artists who do the background or character layout, these people, they belong to certain. They belong to some fraternal orders, and I don't want to name names, but the ones that wear the funny hats.
That I had a long conversation with the Simpsons writer about what you're talking about, and he kind of blew my mind. But I think we've discussed that before.
We did a while ago.
Yeah, I'd like to hear some of it.
Yeah, the thing is, not everyone's heard it, so maybe it's worth.
I walked in. Andreas, Atlantis Fantasy World, downtown Santa Cruz comic store. Dude. And I walked in there one day, and it was empty except for a big table, and there was a guy with all of these Simpsons related stuff at the table, and I'm like, there's no, like, it was kind of weird. There's like a guy at a table, and there's only the employee, and I'm like, what? And basically what I was told was that they advertised poorly or not at all for an event. They screwed up, and so he's doing a book signing or like graphic novel related signing thing for something Simpsons related. He's also a writer for Futurama. And I walk in there and I basically start talking to him about, I was like, when he asked me, oh, are you into Futurama or whatever? And I was like, I've hardly seen the show, but there's one episode that I found really impactful where the robot Bender meets God, and God is like a set of constellations, and God says to Bender, if you do something perfect, people won't be sure you've done anything at all. So I'm just meeting this guy, and I say this to him, and I'm like, that was really impactful for a cartoon. He goes, I wrote that. And it was like, oh, really now? So I sat down with this guy for the longest time. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say it was like 3 hours. I was in there for like a good part of the day. And people would come up and it was just like, oh, and we were like deep into conversation. So I just had this epic conversation with this guy. And so one of the many things I talked with him about subliminals and how subliminals work and The Simpsons and all this stuff. I don't know if you'd appreciate me talking, whatever, but here it is. This is how I am. So basically what he told me is that Fox has a special panel, and that every time that they put together an episode and it's like pretty much finished, it goes before a panel for the final approval. If there's anything in there that they don't like, to a certain extent, they can make the call that this episode is basically confiscated. And so they have no more they're not always like, hey, can you just change one thing? They'll just be like, and they don't have to tell you what it is that they take issue with. There's no reason why they would. And so they're like, basically, we've produced tons of episodes that we've never seen again that were confiscated. And part of why The Simpsons is able to stay on the air so long is because we are subversive. They want subversiveness. We have to guess what's okay and what isn't, and how much to push that. And we always have a backup. So they're like, we have a ton of backstock episodes to, if one gets confiscated, here, how about this one? And they never put up any fuss about it. They're just like, okay. And like a lot of people would feel that their creativity is so stifled by that, like, what? I put all this energy into the whole thing. You can't tell, like that would be so frustrating. But
doing my Sandman dollar, right?
Right. So The Simpsons, apparently, according to this writer, that they've endured that well. Like they're just like super professional. No problem. Okay, how about this? So basically, they own a lot. It's like they do the same kind of thing in a way with musicians now. It's why, like, you're like, wow, how did Tupac come out with so much music after he was dead? Well, I think Lady Gaga for Art Pop said it was like over 200 songs that aren't on the album that are owned by the label. So it's like that. What is going to happen with that? It means that in the future, they could just release any of that however they want.
Britney Spears will be alive.
Right. I think it used to have a racial element, and I don't think that that's so true anymore. I think that it used to be like with hip hop or whatever, they just put people through like, oh, you want to have a professional big record come out here, and then they make them just keep producing. Yeah. It kind of energetically puts them in their place too. But I think they just do that with
everybody,
with people in general now.
It's interesting.
A lot of music. Go ahead.
No,
a lot of musicians are worth a lot more when they're dead than when they're alive, especially to the record labels, because now they don't have to split the pie. They don't have to run any kind of creative control through anyone, especially if there's no like estate. And before you mentioned Simpsons, this is kind of crazy. When I first started getting into comics, I flew out to LA and I was trying to pitch what eventually turned into some of my comics as animations to like 6 Point Harness and Titmouse and a few other studios around there. And I got to sit down with like some OG animators from Film Roman and a lot of the old like Klaxvy Supo animators that were working on like Ariel Monsters and stuff. But on Simpsons in particular, I wanted to note that that you've got Matt Groening on Epstein flight logs, which is not something to discount in the weird toenail story, which we'll set that aside. But also, if you guys are familiar with this, when Alex Jones broke into Bohemian Grove, one of the voices, I think it was Mr. Burns and a whole bunch of other ones, I can't remember his name, Harry something, he was kind of like offended that someone had broken into this Hollywood Bohemian Grove
club,
and he made a movie that was like mocking Alex Jones, and it was called something like The Teddy Bear Picnic or Trading a Teddy Bear Picnic. It was like
I want to see movie. That. Where's that at?
I'm trying to find it right now.
It's on IMDb. I can't remember the exact. It's something about the Teddy Bear Picnic. But like there was just an example of, they're like so deeply entrenched to the fact that this guy got that offended that he actually produced an entire movie just to sort of, there it is.
and what's
Harry
his name?
Shearer.
Harry
Morgan
Shearer.
Harry
Is that
Shearer,
right?
yeah. And Dick Butkus, and these are all guys. Henry Gibson. These are all actual. A lot of these were Grove people. John Michael Higgins. But where did you see Shearer?
I talked to this guy
He's the director, right?
about Aleister Crowley,
Right.
and his response to that, he told me, he's like, I asked him if they studied the occult, Simpsons writers in general. I was like, you guys into the occult? And he said to me, he goes, we're into everything. But he's like, you got to understand something. We're almost all of us are philosophy majors. He was like, we're into all kinds of weird stuff. We talk about it, whatever. But he was like, you know, we do include things. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you everything that's there, you know. But I'm like,
Andreas,
hey,
can you pull up from the mailbox Twitter?
Yeah. Also, what do you guys think about adrenochrome? Oh, really quickly, since I'm in the mood for narcissism. Thank you, Magic Poop, for this epic
awesome.
meme. 20,000 subscribers. Thank you all for being here. And yeah, Magic Poop, this is a based meme.
Well, the flaming sword.
Yeah. The Warhammer 20,000. That's the way to be. Pulling it open right now. Boom and done. Okay, here we go.
So
let's zoom in here.
Oh, you know. Oh, right. So
Schreiner House.
Yeah, the little funny fest. You know, they're doing the little naked dance, and you know, the same old routine that they do, right?
The drinking Masons. That's what they're known as.
Yeah, but not everybody's bad. So what about Fraggle Rock, the Grand Poobah? You know what I'm talking about? The Grand Poobah is amazing, right? They have a secret society of Grand Poobahs.
That sounds familiar.
I wish I could find the pictures of it.
Is this part of the Oddfellows or what?
Basically, she sneaks into the room. She sees that they have a secret society called the Grand Poobahs. They're doing all these weird rituals, and then she gets to join the Grand Poobahs, and that's, you know, but it's a good group. They're fun.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I grew up watching this religiously, and I don't remember anything about the Poobahs. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of these.
There's like 3 of my favorite episodes. I love them all, right? And you know the whole deal that he after the Sex and Violence show that became the Muppets, because he wanted to call it Sex and Violence.
Want to call it the end of Sex and Violence?
Yeah. You know,
really?
He did?
Yeah.
The end.
This actually reminds me of do you know Meet the Feebles?
Yeah, totally.
Peter Jackson. Yeah.
Sex and Violence. I don't think the end of Sex and Violence.
It said the end of Sex and Violence was in the intro to the show when the guy blows it up and he's got the dynamite.
Oh, yeah. But originally he was just going to call it Sex and Violence.
Oh yeah, probably.
People looked at the TV guide that they would
He may have been going the end of Sex and Violence in response to people having a problem with calling it Sex and Violence. Oh, like you can't call it that. Okay, well we're going to end Sex and Violence. You know, like
don't worry, it's cool. Yeah, see, and so he was definitely in the Tavistock and the Shriners and a couple things from, what was he from, Tennessee or something, Mississippi? I forget where.
From originally,
yeah. But the Meet the Feebles, you've seen this one?
Oh my god, I saw it like back in college, and one of my classmates dragged me to see
I saw this
like,
before 2001, so I must have been 9 or 10 years old, and it was definitely wrong to see. And then I couldn't talk about it to anybody for years, about a year. And then September 11th around time, they started introducing the Lord of the Rings and J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm like, that guy? Yeah. You're letting him make the movie? He made this. Did you see the movies he makes about venereal disease puppets? Like, it's not a safe. I don't know why that movie turned out as well as it did, but
this is entirely new to me. But I recognize some of the puppets probably just because they got reused in different productions, though.
Oh my god, it's so friggin' nuts. So basically, they're just trying to hold it together for tonight's show, but a lot of them are drug addicts, alcoholics. They have venereal diseases. There's affairs going on.
So it's like an Avenue Q kind of style.
Yeah, I'd say that. I feel it's like if the Muppet Show was run by people that just are all about to die. You know, they're just like they're spread too thin. That's the idea. Yeah, it's a good one. Giants or Megaliths or Adrenochrome. Where do you guys want to go first?
I want to say one other thing as long as we're on the subject of subliminals.
Okay.
This is one that I found that I've never heard anyone mention. It's totally freaking crazy. I've considered doing like a short little video to like demonstrate it. But so you know that movie Sideways about wine country, whatever.
Oh yeah, random movie. Love it.
Right. I wasn't expecting this one to come up.
Okay, so check this out, man. If you go exactly 42 minutes into Sideways, so it was 42:00, and they're having like a conversation at a table in a restaurant, whatever. And they do like a vignette where they're kind of fading between shots just to show like time is passing and we're getting drunk and whatever.
Mm.
And in those vignettes, something happens where basically you got to turn the volume way the hell up to catch this. But he's holding a bottle of wine, one of these guys, and he goes, I think it was Thomas Hayden Church, and he goes, hey, what does this remind you of? And if you look at the label on the bottle of wine, it says White Craft 2001. And then right after he says that, at exactly 42 minutes on the nose, a little hand comes up in between the shots in the vignette, and you can a little hand, a finger goes like that. It does the red rum thing, and if you turn the volume way up, you can hear red rum. And so, what is that? He's saying White Craft. Hey, just a question, like, what does White Craft remind you of? Like, if you see the word White Craft, what word does that look like? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it looks like witchcraft. But even without that, it's still 2001 heavily, like, see it. And to 2001, you're like 2001: A Space Odyssey. What do you think of when you think of 2000? Like
I think immediately of Alice and Foster Bailey and A Treatise on White Magic, right?
I like from intellect to intuition, but yeah.
David, is there any connection between 42 and Dionysus cult?
And Dionysus specifically? I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I just kept thinking. Well, we know the sideways about wine country and Napa and
right.
Red Rum, of course.
Well, sure. Well, I mean, how throughout The Shining you have the 42 thing. So that happens to be at the 42 mark of the film. And Danny's wearing 42 on his shirt. 42 comes up repeatedly. There's like essays on 42 in The Shining. Like that's a whole. And if watching Summer 42 on the wireless communications device, so to speak, like there's a TV set that isn't plugged in or whatever. He's watching Summer 42. Anyway,
when Wikipedia has stuff on the 42's connections to ancient Egypt, then there's that.
There you go.
He's like, come on, guys, think about
the principles of Ma'at and all that.
Yeah.
But here it is. 42 lines.
Anyway. None for you. No, you're right.
Yeah, no. The where's it? So the 42 letter name is a variation on the first 42 letters of Bereshit. That's how that's derived.
42 lines per column in the Torah and 42 lines per page in the Gutenberg Bible. Really
go.
Interesting.
Ein Sof. Yeah. So interesting. Wow, this Wikipedia these days. Jesus Christ. Yeah. What is going on? Look at there's just a lot of contributors from all over the place. No shit. Wow.
Sometimes, man, they don't, because I think they know this isn't. They're like, okay, well, they're not going to look at this. They're only going to be worried about Epstein or Clinton or something. So let's put it into.
Have any of you guys seen any of Jay Wiedner's stuff on like Kubrick? And I love one of my favorite theories that he presents is that the monolith from 2001 is actually a cinema aspect ratio. And that this was basically this new technology that was about to kill everybody was really like media and popular, culture.
He said that after many people have said that, but yeah, I'm not going to give him credit for that one, but I'll give him some credit.
But I think we'd all agree though that the monolith kind of remember the David, the 9/11 Back to the Future predicts 9/11. A major presupposition of that is that the tower. What's the tower in New York City that looks like the monolith?
The Millennium Hilton.
The Hilton.
And I'm very interested to know if there's any significance to the gematria, the particular way in which they spell millennium. So we talked about this recently, but yeah, the Millennium Hilton intentionally designed to resemble the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. But yeah, Joe makes a comparison with the cell phone. That this is. The monolith turned the other way represents a screen. It's like the ape tilts his head. You know what I mean? Like when after he touches it and has this kind of revelatory evolutionary leap. But yeah, so that it was flush with the towers, and somehow it wasn't took down freaking Tower 7, but Building 7, but the Millennium Hilton seemed to do okay. But yeah, that Hilton shows up in 2001: A Space Odyssey on the space station before he goes to Clavius.
Well, I always suspected that. There's been that long time rumor saying that the Rothschilds were sitting in that building, watching it what it unfolded, and then we know that the Hiltons married. Nikki Hilton married what's his name? John Rothschild, Adam Rothschild. So basically, there's a whole union going on with. I made a post in Synchronous, but I'm trying to find it. But it's interesting with also with the the Taicho, what's it called? Taicho or Tycho? The
Tycho
crater
sounds right. Near
on
the
the
crater.
moon, right?
Tycho.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I have to
Tycho.
repeat the whole thing.
Yeah, you look at the whole construction site. It looks just like the excavation site of 9/11, World Trade Center, along with all these lights lit up with 12. These lights are beamed with 12 lamps, 12 light bulbs, which kind of resemble um the what do you call it, the chosen, the chosen chest plate. And I don't know, there's just a lot of correlation going on. I think if you look at some snapshot of from the
You
2001.
guys know about the Hellraiser cube at Ground Zero, the art facility? I don't know. Did they ever? Did they finish building it? Is it still in the process? What's happening? It's like, have you seen that? It's a giant cube.
Oh, this thing?
No. It's a building. It's a building that's like kind of goldish. It resembles the Hellraiser cube. I mean, I don't know if how many people are pointing out that it looks like the Hellraiser cube, but it's pretty unmistakable to me. I don't know what you had.
Well,
Yeah, there it is.
The Borg cube looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
So
weird.
I don't know, man.
Definitely
So
Hellraiser,
the first Hellraiser was released on a 9/11, and the third Hellraiser's release date was a 9/11, and then the two towers show up in the background of Hellraiser 3. I think we talked about that last week. But yeah, no. But I just want to point this out because when I talked about that, I don't think I mentioned this because I think I don't know, man. There's something going on there. Because Rob Agger, who also pointed out, I don't know if he was the first, not that it really matters, who cares about credit of this kind of stuff, but the screen being the monolith screen connection, I think that may have been originated with Rob Agger, actually. But he had an analysis of Hellraiser where he argues that the cube is actually the television and that there's indicators of it, one of which is in the first Hellraiser when what are they called? Cenobites or whatever? What are they called?
Right.
I don't know.
You got it, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So when those guys
Cenobite.
come out, she's looking at the television set in the hospital, and it cuts back and forth between the television set and the cube. And he argues that there's kind of something subliminally being communicated there.
What do you guys think about that? Thomas, do you have thoughts on this too? The idea of horror filmmakers making what do you call it? Ritual occult, empowering a movie, enchanting a movie in order to
1,000,000%, man. And actually, we talked about this recently, but I think that I've traced back some origins of kind of like evil and black magic in Hollywood directly crossing over, and it all seems to point in at least in one way to Aldous Huxley, because Aldous Huxley created Doors of Perception. And through this, he kind of just got his name out, sort of like on the circuit. He moves to Hollywood and he starts rubbing elbows with, all sorts of Hollywood elite. And one of his direct assistants was a guy named DeBean or DeQueen or something. I'm blanking on his assistant's name, but he basically was tasked with researching for a movie called The Seventh Victim. And in The Seventh Victim, it's basically about going to Greenwich Village, and there's these Satanists that are like these high society, not like the robes and kind of like the evil chanting ones, but like the rich wine sipping ones. So Aldous Huxley's assistant goes to one of these satanic ritual meetings, comes back, and then this version of Satanism is the one that kind of starts permeating all the way through Hollywood. And I mentioned the very next time this comes up, there's an episode of the Wild Wild West called the Night of the Druid, I think, and it stars Don Rickles, and Don Rickles is Osmaeus or Osmosis. I can't remember some demon's name. There's the one with him in the hood. So
there he is.
And my favorite note on this is that Anton LaVey is watching this, and I think he's like 17 years old. He just came home. He sees Don Rickles dressed up like this with the little beard and the mustache. And he's like, I want to look like that. And this kind of spawned his image as, you know, Anton LaVey with the shaved head in Church of Satan, because he goes back to the lounge that he was playing piano and singing at, and he just kind of like impromptu stands up and declares tonight as the first meeting of the Church of Satan, and shaves his head on the spot and makes him look just like this Don Rickles character, which was kind of funny, but this
everything comes back to Wild Wild West. That's just it.
But this thread really does tie all the way back, and I think like one of the epicenters is Aldous Huxley.
Have you seen the Eddie Murphy Seinfeld, like comedians in cars getting coffee, where Eddie Murphy's talking about Sammy Davis Jr. Having dinner with him, like at one point, and like Sammy Davis Jr. is like, he's like by candlelight. It's like the way he's described is so good. Eddie Murphy's so good. He's like just like, you know, he casually just goes, you know that Satan's more powerful than God, right? And then he just like starts like explaining like his whole Satanism trip, and Eddie Murphy was like kind of like freaked out by it or whatever. In the same clip, it's great. Like Eddie Murphy talks about how Planet of the Apes and The Wizard of Oz are the same movie. I don't need to go into it completely, but it's, you know, they go off to a far off land. There's apes in one. There's, you know, munchkins in the other. They both at the end basically realize they were home all along. There's like he does a good job, but yeah, no, it goes into a whole Planet of the Apes trip. But
there is nobody who could be more. Are you kidding me? Eddie Murphy was the least shocked person about Satanism in Hollywood. He's like, yeah, I'm in. Yeah, where do I sign up? Who do I send my check to? That was his whole life story. Do you remember Golden Child?
Of course.
Golden Child is not a movie. It is literally just a Scottish Rite play. That is all it is. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Because there's that Tibetan Scottish Rite connection. Where I'm trying to remember it. Doesn't he go to Tibet and like have to? It's kind of Indiana Jones like at the end. Like he has to step on. Like
there's a lot of Masonic dream sequence going on in it too.
And why didn't you go to the art gallery scene in Beverly Hills Cop? You know, when he walked into the art gallery. Did you remember that scene? I think I might have talked about it in the last episode. But yeah, okay, yeah. There's a.
This has come up before. That's crazy.
Just watch it. This is like Marie Abramovich party. Right
this reminds me of the scene in Beetlejuice a little bit, the dinner scene.
Right. Yeah. Or anything that you'd see at the Tate Museum, you know.
It is very high society.
And I want to point out too on this tangent, because you mentioned, you know, do you think that magic is being kind of employed in Hollywood? And another kind of example of this is that if you look at most modern definitions of like a magic ritual and just magic in general, it's just repeating the same kind of process over and over and forming this sort of like ritual. And if you commit something to DVD or tape, and you're submitting that out and everyone's watching it over and over, the same kind of audio and, you know, light and, you know, all the frequencies are just being perpetuated over and over to the point where some people watch the same movie every single Christmas. So they watch, you know, certain movies on like certain schedules. I mean, that in itself is just a repetition of this original magic ritual by definition. I mean, you could almost like textbook define it as a technicality, right? Also, like the act of like going to a theater too, like that you go into a dark space, curtain opens up, the only light in the room, and the story aspect too. Like if you look at magic theory and practice, there is all the elements of the nature of a story where you have the climax of the ritual, all these things involved. And yeah, we go along and this much attention from this many minds and us processing around it. But you could also argue the you know, what is the task, the Hierophant task, you know, it's always the stated intention of Freemasonry too. Like, and you know, I don't think all Freemasons come from the same place, and I don't think occultists in general all come from this. Why are you doing what you're doing? But this idea of wanting to illuminate the masses, you know, that's supposed to be the stated intention. Whereas like where there's that vast distinction between secrecy and mystery, you know, like when people get off on the secrecy thing, that's a big part of like, you know, the secret society, like what people want out of it, like what, you know, like what their whole trip is, man. They're like, we have secret information.
You want to know more.
Right. Whereas like there's also the angle when it comes to like occultism is like hidden or whatever, but like bringing the hidden out into the open is, you know, that. So there's this idea that the Hierophant has to use subliminals, because if he was just to come out and say the thing, first of all, people would be making it into a concept. Even if they go for it, they've just made a belief system out of something, which holds little value. It's all in the insight. It's in the actual discovery in oneself that it has any real value. Like that's all. I don't know. There's different arguments all over the place, but like I can appreciate one side of it, like where it's like in terms of the arts, like what is the function of the arts, like, and when one person hears art for art's sake, and then somebody else's interpretation of it, like, is it just for the sake of the thing, or what? Because what is the thing? I don't know.
I mean, the thing is the girl watching the movie at home, right? Because then she's putting her energy into the thing. This is the Draco kind of approach. So let's say you're going through space as a light being and you have to use some sort of a robot body. You create this like gray that you can travel in, but it's not going to have any feelings, because getting bored and lonely in a long period of time, not worth having feelings. But then you've got this idea that the spirit needs to use the human emotional experience, use us to process these experiences. Scientology talks about this as well, which is another interesting link to Hollywood, creating so many. I mean, Scientology supposed to be so advanced, and I'm very interested in the clam-bake Dianetics research. However, so many of the movies they make are NCIS. They're this convoluted emotional baggage story where there's a problem that they're investigating that has nothing to do with their emotional life, and then that's then solved through some sort of a logical rhetoric. And then at the end, it's just a Perry Mason moment, right? So that's
sure.
You can go home and you don't have to think about yourself. You just get absorbed in this. You feel this ride, and then it's a conflict resolution.
Hey, those movies? This is like a trope where it's like there's someone's corrupt. There's some corrupt guy, and he's giving it could be at a college, it could be wherever. There's some corruption, and then somebody gets it recorded, like in video or audio, something that the person says, and they come out and they're like, look. Like, we got it. Like, and then it's like, that is it. Like, that's the end of the story. And then you look at like the obvious one would be like somebody like Snowden or something. It's like, or Julian Assange. Or something. It's like, it doesn't matter now, are they? Like, it's like, and now you're gonna be the criminal in certain cases. Now, what did you do? How did you obtain this? Like and that's some crazy like PR that's gotten us to like even accept that, to like attack somebody. It's like the whistleblowers become the enemy. But that I'm just pointing out, like in the old structure of like a story, like that would be. We wouldn't even occur to you that this person who had this recording that showed that this person is corrupt would be the person that would be getting in trouble, and like maybe not even the other person at all. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just want to point.
I think Nixon's my favorite example, because Nixon was like, they're like, hey, who do we know who's just a diehard loyalist who was raised by the Navy and goes down with the ship? I know, Nixon. That'll work out. And then so what do we do to get rid of him? Well, we've got what do we do to get out of trouble? We have all these things we're doing that are so horrible. I know. Let's record him saying a few sensationalist things. That way, nobody even bothers to look into the church committee hearings or any of the spying that we're doing and what's going to continue on with Carter. Right. That
could have just been convenient. Like, I don't really know. I think that those recordings are hysterical.
Karl Rove. No,
and I'm amazed. Like, almost every time I talk to people about those Nixon recordings, I'm like, dude, those have been available forever. You can go online. You can go on YouTube and hear Nixon going off about his views on Bohemian Grove and saying like I'm not going to say it on a podcast, but like go check that out, because it's pretty over the top.
Except for that 16 minutes he was freestyling, which is ironically the most interesting part. But they've taken that from us. I don't know.
You know how this all feels like, in the Wicker Man, the Sergeant Howie.
Oh
trying to expose the whole town that you guys are a bunch of sacrificial blood feigning, and then next thing you know, he's the one being thrown into the Wicker Man, getting burned. He's like,
right.
It's like, what are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it?
That's his own fault for being a virgin at 35, though, right? That was what happened, I thought, because he wasn't married, so he was.
Yeah, he's well preserved for the purpose.
Yeah,
but
is that probably true? Actually, I think you're onto something there. I watched that movie several times. It never even crossed my mind. It's good.
Yeah.
You seen The Wicker Tree, the sequel?
There's a Wicker Tree sequel? No.
Yeah. It's like a Christian. It's like a Christian country singer who goes out to the same place. It's the same director, I think, the same writer. It's like
really,
yeah. So I have a sync for this with a Nick Cave album. I can send it to you guys. But yeah, no, it's so bad but the sync is so good. I mean, it's a bad movie, but it just like it does something because it's like yeah. This is a C movie that becomes A-list in my view artistically with Nick Cave. But
I'll feel it. So wait. This is the Nick Cage movie, the one with Nick Cage.
no,
in
Nick Cave, the musician.
Okay.
I have a sync with this album with the Skeleton Tree album that he did.
Yeah, but Nicolas Cage is in the remake of Wicker Man.
Oh, you're right, Nick Cave. Yeah, that's weird. I didn't even mean to say that. The bees.
Sorry. Fun fact: Nixon was the first male human to cry on TV. Is that true, Stefan? I don't know. Thank you for the super chat. I didn't know that.
Since Stefan mentioned that, you guys still haven't seen Watchmen, right? I was talking about Watchmen last week.
Oh, I did start watching it. Have you seen that, Thomas? The Watchmen?
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the OG classics.
No, he's talking about the show.
Nixon's all over the show. Nixon, basically he's basically. Well, how would you see Nixon? He's an effigy everywhere in the trailer park, right? His statue was standing.
He's like Lenin. He's like Lenin.
Yeah, they're trying to hunt down
that part. Actually, I recall being correct from the Watchmen, right? Because is that different? Which one is it? Red Sun or Watchmen? Yeah, Nixon's in Watchmen, where he's president later on. For multiple terms. That was part of it. So they did. That's integral to the story. I just liked what you brought up last time. I hadn't realized, and so that's why I watched the show.
He lost it to Redford because Redford became the president. Robert Redford, the actor. So,
right.
But I don't know if that was in the original comics. I got to read it, but yeah. So,
Robert Redford is in the HBO series.
No, he is not. But basically, he is the president in that scenario.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't know if that was in the original comic.
I forget, but there was something interesting about the presidents near the end there, like from JFK and Nixon. Like JFK doesn't get killed, right? And then Nixon happens after anyway, or something, because the world. I forget.
Oh, this is very Philip K. Dickian, right? Because isn't that his whole thing with Valis relates to the Nixon trial as an example or whatever?
Philip K. Dick, Grasshopper Lies Heavy is the book inside of the Man in High Castle. They're all reading the Grasshopper Lies Heavy, and it's more about the 20s, and FDR doesn't die because they have someone else takes over, or something happens that changes the course of history before World War I.
Right. So you know what I told you what that means. Do you remember what that means? Grasshopper Lies Heavy?
I forget, but you did tell me. What was it?
So Philip K. Dick said that it was a Kabbalistic puzzle or whatever. I forget the exact Kabbalistic something, riddle or something. But grasshopper, the word I'd have to find the particulars to get this exact. But the word for grasshopper in Hebrew also means brick mason.
Oh, right.
So it's basically saying the mason lies heavy. So you're like, do you think lying down? But yeah, anyway, there's a whole heavy lies.
How do you pronounce it in the Hebrew? Do you know?
I'd have to look it up again. This was an Always Record. That was like an early Always Record. Bill brought it up, but
yeah. You mentioned it a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, but so okay, I do want to ask about Giants because I did see this. It's been on my mind all week. So you guys know what the
before you get on this, I sent you this earlier. Can you check the mailbox real quick?
Yeah, okay.
Just something to show you.
One sec, going there right now. And also, David pulled up something. Let me show that while I'm pulling that up. Okay. Is you can go to the Synchronicity, thesyncbook.com, Syncflix, and click on the Wicker Tree synced with Nick Cave and the Bad Seed Skeleton Tree. And that's going to be worth your time. Interesting. And so I've never seen this movie. I've only seen the Nick Cage Wicker Man and the original Wicker Man. So I
didn't even know this one existed. This is awesome.
Yeah. Very interesting
shit right there.
And then on the Twitter, going here, Synctank, and boom. Okay, these people are magicians. They know the human consciousness co-creates reality based on what the mind believes to be true and real. This process is amplified when instilled in the crowd consciousness. They are projecting what they want into your mind, so you build it for them, right? Isn't this like a charter? Isn't the Tavistock Charter something like that? Basically, Tavistock Institute.
It was one of the models.
I mean, they say something like virtually just like that. They're like, our goal is to like help shape
human consciousness, the ideas.
Yeah, like make people want to do the right thing. That whole idea. Thanks, Rockefeller.
Right for you. Yeah. And if you want to check out the other photo that dropped there,
sorry,
just real quick, but just the last thing I have to say about Kanye West, but basically, the one above. So CAA is the talent agency, right?
Yep, I remember this.
Yeah. So CAA dropped Kanye yesterday. So there you go. Yeah, you kiss your great connection goodbye. So.
Dig it. Yeah.
Wow. Yep. Out of sight, out of mind, out of mind, out of sight. Yeah. So okay, am I the only one excited about Giants, or is Giants not a thing that we want to talk about?
No, let's talk about
it.
I'm really confused and excited about Giants right now. So Giants is a thing that I think about sometimes, all right? But it's not all the time. I have other things on my mind. Calm down.
I was listening to your other the show from yesterday. I didn't finish listening to it, but you were talking about it, right?
I mean for the last week. It's because I didn't really realize. So I'd been to the Glidden's Museum, and the Glidden's Museum now looks kind of like, whereas this is kind of what it looks like now. Load your picture. You got some dwarves, you got some big guys and some little guys, you got some Polynesian locals that are like 8 to 9 feet tall, and then they're like, oh, that's fake, whatever. But this is what it used to look like in the day. It was covered in all of the bones of the indigenous peoples from the islands, and they had to take them and give them back, because but the thing is, they didn't get to do genetic testing, but there was a lot of the tribes are now being genetically tested who are alive and finding that they're Polynesian tribes as well as, Mesoamerican Asian tribes. So there's a huge diversity of population. And when we look at giants, there was this channel I saw recently called Megalithomania. And it's got a guy who basically he goes to places around the world, and he just does lectures about what he's found in the pyramids or in Malta or whatever. But what do you guys think about giants in general? And this idea that, because basically what it comes down to is the idea that we're getting smaller. I put that meme out, the idea that we're getting smaller. Do you think that there's truth to that, or what do you think's going on?
How tall are you guys?
Yeah, good point. You look like a biggin.
I'm at 5'7".
6'4".
Yeah, good job, David.
I'm 6'1", so
yeah,
and I'm taller than both of my parents, anecdotally.
Okay, so this is a difficult conversation because there's so much twaddle out there, and there's so much weird stuff at the same time that is unexplainable and whatever. And so there's, I'm not an evolutionary biologist, so I can't, speak to. I mean, I can say probably what I think a woman is, but like there's certain areas that like I fall short. But
a woman should be 11 feet tall.
So there's things I've heard, like we see that linear view of evolution. Like here's coming out of the ocean, and here developmentally into ape, into man, whatever.
Jay wants to know how tall I am. I didn't say because I want you guys to take your guesses. Go right ahead. Is evolution so linear? The idea of coexistent hominoids of various sorts is like an old idea that has great rationale behind it. When we see kind of those little pumpkin heads and the obviously the elongated skull, there's a phenomenon with the elongated skull. Somebody might correct me here. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I need to very much emphasize that, but I've heard this explained that there's something people do even to this day, apparently, like where they'll literally with their brain,
board, so to speak. So they'll basically like shape their head that way developmentally. Like there's tricks you can do. Like you can make a goat into a unicorn. That certain kind of goat has horns. You can reshape its skull as it's developing in order to twist the horns together to create.
Drive with your feet.
You can
mean you should do it, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I could. Well, I have a friend who actually took care of the goat that Barnum and Bailey took, and then they actually purposely deformed afterwards so no one could use it after they toured their amazing unicorn. But anyway, the point is that you can shape skulls in different ways. The thing is, though, is that apparently
right here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So totally. So there you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So, but apparently, when you do this to a skull, the inner cavity of the skull is going to be the same size. Like you're not going to get a bigger brain or whatever because you reach it. So it basically builds up. And I don't know the proper terminology. Maybe it's like calcification or something. There's something as it builds that it's heavy and it forms differently, but the cavity stays the same, supposedly. And so there's ancient skulls, from my understanding, that are elongated that don't match the skulls that we see this done with today, where the where the inner cavity isn't the same size. Like, it is larger. Like, they apparently had larger brains, and it's another version, another type of hominoid. And we know that this happened even beyond, like, there's consistency with the skull shapes, where and not just escapes how it matches the body, the skeleton in general, and the differences that exist there. And we found it all intact in places. And you'll find this, I guess, in Peru. Is that South America? You probably know about Peru. This, Andreas. Like, sure. What is the deal? Tell me about crystal skulls. Or crystal, like,
totally different, but yes, the crystal skulls are where they take drugs, they take mushrooms and die. But at the end of their life, it's like usually the shaman, he goes into a cave and he holds onto the skull, and they do this to the skull for like 100 generations, and then they get another crystal skull and they store the shaman's souls in that. Different skulls, but the elongated skulls are these tall redheads, which have been linked to Homo capensis. You're not even supposed to talk about this because I don't think it's fully proven exactly, even though there's been genetic testing that's been done. And it is pretty interesting that these like 2.5 meter tall redheads with elongated skulls lived along the coast of Peru and into Titicaca in Bolivia, and may have even gone as far as Paraguay. But so there's
the crystal skulls are Mexican, right?
Yeah, but are they? Hold on. Crystal skulls. Crystal skulls are probably more nomadic.
There's been a number all throughout South America, so it's not just one specific.
Thank you.
Yeah, here's the Brazilian. There's a Brazilian one in the 19th century. So the thing is, the idea of the nomadic tribes bringing crystal skulls, and that there being a different headquarters every 1,000 years or every century, moving north from the Olmec might have had to do with the irrigation techniques and what was changing about the environment, because clearly, like, South America was shaped in a lot of ways by human agriculture. It wasn't just dinosaurs pooping avocado seeds. That story doesn't hold up. But yeah, the elongated skulls, they were in charge. Then the people afterwards started to form their baby skulls to look more like them, so that they could be rulers as well. And so we don't have we don't have genetic evidence of Homo capensis. Reason being, though, we know about the matriarchal lines and the X and Y chromosomes. It's very difficult to get a correct male lineage line going back. You can lose information along the mutation. So looking at haplotype H, you can see haplotype H in Southwest Asia and Syria. And it has similarly redheads who are tall, and a culture in Georgia that had elongated skulls as well. So, and also has the haplotype H sequences coming from the O into the Western Hemisphere. Hey, so there's a lot of go ahead.
You want to hear a theory? I've been arguing with people for so long about these. For example, the Devil's Tower.
Yeah,
in the third encounter of a close kind.
Giant trees, yeah.
Yeah, it's look at it. It's a stump. I mean, there's no way it can be a natural rock formation. I mean, that's not the only one. There are plenty of these structures that you just know it's like a root. It's like penetrate into the ground and just rose, and then to the top, and then have a perfect chopped up. Well, actually, I made a post yesterday in Twitter.
I like the line in Close Encounters of the Third Kind when they have their point of alien contact, and before they play the communicative notes to talk to the aliens, they say everything's ready on the dark side of the moon. Play the 5 tones, and I've tripped out on that on multiple levels. Like, it reminds me of the pentagram, first of all, with the 5 tones corresponding, and then like that they refer to it as the dark side of the moon, brings up Jack Parsons, and obviously
it's got a very Pythagorean feel to it as well, right?
Yeah, but that's crucial, man. Is that actually like what happens there in that movie? What is communicated? He's looking at his mashed potatoes. He goes, "This means something." He has this sense. It's all that synchronicity at the center of the film, right? We interviewed a guy on Always Record years ago that himself had interviewed a bunch of people who claimed to have been abducted by aliens, and he asked them all. He had a series of questions. And one of the reasons why he came on the show, I can't remember his name, could look it up, but was because he asked everybody, what they thought of synchronicity. All these people who had, I forget the number of how, it was a lot of people that he interviewed, or, you know, and almost all of them had the same answer. They said that's their language. That's how they communicate, speaking to aliens. So basically aliens communicating through synchronicity. Yeah. So that is apparently among people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. That's like the go-to explanation of what is the relationship between aliens and synchronicity. So
where do you guys stand on the 332 and 340 hertz?
Yeah, good question.
Which one is the natural?
Because you mentioned uptones. I think 332 is
I'm a big 440. I like 442.
440.
I like 442 and 444 also, just like slightly off. I'm a big fan of binaural entrainment. I like the idea that you can actually resync. I made a video at one point called The COVID Cure right before it was like bannable to do that. And so basically that video is blacklisted, but if you look for it, it also has solfeggio. I put it into the title more recently, and you can find out. Right?
Andreas, you were so funny at the very beginning of that, because we talked and you were like, dude, no one's controlling YouTube right now. He was like, you gotta jump on it. There was like a 14-day window where you're like, dude, get in here and do something right now while you can.
Oh my God, it was amazing, because like right when it first happened, you have so many people thought the world was ending. So all the lawyers were like, I'm not going to work. I was at home. So I could just get like 36 copyright strikes and petition them, and nobody was there to respond. So that was a nice.
You gotta get busy to everything. And you know, when's that gonna happen again? You know, who knows? But
it'll happen soon. I know, I'm a big fan of apocalyptic times. I'm excited.
But the reason I brought this up wasn't just on a pure tangent, but if there is a way to kind of communicate, this is sort of like the Rosetta Stone almost would be, what's your table of frequencies, and like how did all these relate to each other? Because even when you start shifting from 432 to 440, the relationships and the ratios between the notes that you're perceiving also change slightly, and that would almost be like, if you were writing computer code, you can't just go and randomly like shift that one over to the left, you know, every once in a while. That actually changes the entire transmission. So I feel like there might be something a little to this, if there really is a way to kind of communicate throughout, you know, like
you guys
just beyond music.
You guys can't hear this, right? No music coming through?
No.
So I highly recommend, just to say, the Rhythm of the Primes. This video just came out on August 15th, very recent, but it talks all about using primes to make rhythms and patterns and sequences, and why it's like, you know, of course, math and music are the same, but this, I think, answers a lot of questions about both Close Encounters and the Third Kind, and how your dial-up modem works, you know, and why you like pop music. It's all in one.
You know, if we're going to talk about this at all, it's just important factors like Poltergeist and E.T. we should know are technically the same movie. So the two sides of the same movie. They both are ultimately inspired from the screenplay called Dark Skies, which is why there's a movie I'd say called Night Skies. There is actually Dark Skies that they released about alien abduction. There you go, Dark Skies. So I can't find the screenplay online anymore. I've read it. It's out there. You can find, I'm sure, if you put a lot of work into it. But yeah, it's an old Steven Spielberg screenplay. And the idea was with, you know, Close Encounters, they had the friendly alien thing, you know, it's like, oh, you know, they actually come in peace or whatever. And we're actually need to be more worried about ourselves and the way that we are or whatever. But yeah, so basically if E.T. and Poltergeist are the same length, they both end with veiled Kubrick references. You have Thus Spake Zarathustra, or Also Spake Zarathustra, occurring at the end of E.T. as E.T. disappears with a rainbow behind him, you know. And then the last door that you see at the end of Poltergeist, as the camera pans down when they go to the motel, is actually 217, which is the equivalent of 237 in the book The Shining. The connections between The Shining and Poltergeist is a whole other level, both building on a burial ground, you know, that the allegory often referenced by Jim Morrison as well, that when you repress something, when something's built on top of something that was, you know, that we don't want to look at, that we want to repress, it comes up through it and there's no way around it. So that's basically, they share this idea. You moved the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies, didn't you? You know, and so basically what happens in E.T. is that E.T.'s original design from, what's his name? Something Baker, the Industrial Light and Magic creator, was freaking terrifying. So like his original, like
I made the sync between Entertainment Tonight and ET, and now I'm freaking terrified.
Right, there's something there, and yeah. And so you know, oh man, all kinds of things. So like basically, ET wasn't entirely meant to be a good alien at first. And they kept that in the movie, and people don't always realize it. But E.T. is literally draining. He's using Elliot's life force.
Yeah.
Well, what was Tobe Hooper's next film after Poltergeist? It was called Life Force. In Poltergeist, they say it's after her life force. That's the words that Zelda Rubinstein uses in relationship to it. So Carol Ann is enshrouded with the beast that's after her life force. And what is happening with Elliot? Elliot is having his life force taken so that the alien can use it to exist in this realm. They're both culminate with the closet. So in E.T., they're hiding him in the closet.
Right.
Like Carol Ann disappears into the closet. They communicate through the television. E.T. phones home through looking at the television and making the connection with the comic and the whole trip, man. Like I could go on, but yeah, you get the idea. Like,
I mean, clearly Hannibal Lecter deciding, you know what, you were so polite, I decided not to eat you. You know,
the two film sets overlap.
Well, what is the phone number that E.T. dialed to phone home?
867-5309.
Ooh, I had a friend who had that as his phone number. Actually, it's my friend's dad. But kept it from the 70s into like the 90s. It was amazing. But yeah, anyway, I wish I had that. But yeah, so the two films filmed at the same time. The timing of the productions it coexist. The two sets actually overlap. And then, you know, Poltergeist, we've discussed this, relates to the Crookes tube. You could explain that probably better than I could, Andreas, but yeah, crazy stuff.
And you want so I just want to jump onto the prime number, sure. Right? So you brought up the whole music prime number sequence. I mean, I'm just remembering Shining, right? And well, you know, Danny Lloyd. Okay, so Danny Lloyd is, you know, the actor's birthday. I told you one episode that he was born on the 666th anniversary of the arrest of the Knights Templar in 1307.
The Friday the 13th day,
and that is a holiday for the Demolay, so the Boy Scouts of the Freemasons, because Demolay was killed that day. Right?
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So if you look at a year, right, it's 1307. You take out a zero, that's pretty much 137. That's another prime, which is the God number, which a lot of physicists agree 137 is the. So I'm just starting to see the pattern going on here. With
sure.
Totally.
I mean, that's the thing. You can always if you can't see the pattern, you can hear it. That's what's crazy about it, because it's
right. Yeah, six times 6 times 6 is 216. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but another thing, yeah, that's true. It's 216, room 217. But then you look at, you know, 666 is also one of those you multiply the derivative, which is 37, right? 37 is another magic prime that comes with the family of 73, 137. There's a whole article about it, but 37 times 18 is 66. So
right, it's 216, which is 6 times 6 times 6, plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 equals 237.
And someone just asked, where's the connection to Tom Green because of Drew Barrymore and E.T. And I have to say, he's looking for Bigfoot right now. So
I think Jake Kotza might have something about that.
That's your giant sync. I think that was pretty good.
Right. That's good because that's another level to the Green Man discussion we were having in private messaging. So there you go. Green Man, Tom Green. Yeah. No, that's something. Yeah. Firestarter. Where's the Prodigy connection? Was she a Prodigy?
Yeah, he actually has a correlation with a Green Man because Osiris lost his phallus and Tom Green lost his ball.
Oh,
man. There you go. That's good.
Well done.
The 14th part.
Yeah.
Tom Green.
Backwards man.
Particular cancer song. He made a song for everyone how to testicular to look for lumps or something like that. He's like, if you guys need help, you just sing this song, and it reminds. And some kid said, or some mom sent a message. My son was watching MTV, heard that song, checked himself, found out he had a lump, and actually it saved his life. So thank you, Tom Green. So good job, Tom Green.
Awesome.
His podcast is pretty funny. I started listening to it. He doesn't have a whole lot of content, but he's just like in some crazy winter, some shack in Canada, like this frozen tundra, just with his dog with the fireplace, and says nothing for like a whole hour. I just watch.
The cold will inspire you to podcast,
dude. Oh man, what did he do? I'm sorry. I was going to say something, but yeah, the freaking stand-up that he did was
Oh,
so good. I recommend
so
Tom
good.
Green's good stand-up, man.
He's
Yeah.
a funny guy. He's very funny.
What is this, Thomas?
So Kubrick keeps coming up in different ways, and there's not going to be a better segue. But I wanted to just show maybe some new panels on a book that's not released yet. This is something that I've been working on for like at least 2 or 3 years plus.
Epic.
And essentially, it's called Never a Straight Answer, NASA, and it's about Stanley Kubrick getting hired to shoot the Apollo moon landings, essentially for the CIA.
Whoa!
But it kind of takes place as more of like that's happening in the background, and it just kind of taken as a matter of fact, and the other things that are kind of happening in the foreground. So I'll show. I haven't showed any of these pages
film reel around the world that is Kubrick. That's just you're good.
So
I like your style, man. You're good art.
So I want to point out these are the artists here. I'm just writer creator, and I kind of act as art director a little bit.
Epic.
But these are the actual artists here.
Full Walt Disney moment.
And yeah, so I mean the general premise is kind of summarized up where right here where they're basically saying we can't let the Russians fake a moon landing before we fake a moon landing. So it's like a fake space race on who can fake the moon landing the first. And then as we kind of go through, they offer Kubrick like, you know, basically here's this unlimited budget and you can just make any movies about anything you want. You get final say, final cut, unlimited budget, unlimited resources. So he's kind of thinking of all the different movies that he wants to make with this money that they're about to just bankroll him with for the rest of his career. So you've got like some Shining references and some Clockwork Orange.
Alien scientist saying, "What's up, guy? Hey, yo, Jeremy, we're gonna have to talk about Kubrick and the fake moon landing again. I know this is your bread and butter as well."
And there's a couple of some of my funniest, my favorite ones in here is that apparently Kubrick was like a chess master, 100%.
Right.
He would go and play chess in the park and just kind of like school people. And so there's a couple of scenes here where he's like schooling the astronauts and taking their money. There's another side plot which is one of my favorite is that Kubrick had a couple interviews where he mentioned that he thought one of his cats, I think his name was Polly, had a telekinetic connection with him or telepathic connection because every time he went to go and like brush the cat would either like jump up and run away, or when he was like thinking about like wanting the cat to come, the cat would come like way ahead of time. So there's this subplot in the comic where he's slowly testing the telepathic abilities of his cat. This one is based on a story where he was actually working on another movie and the Beatles wanted to pitch him a Lord of the Rings movie where it was going to be.
I can't believe you have a comic about this. We just covered this and this is already
yeah.
And this is amazing. This next page is probably my favorite in the entire comic, and this is what if Kubrick actually followed through. So this is kind of what's going in his
That's
mind.
my dream.
Like
I love it. Yeah, John was going to play the Gollum, right?
Dude, can you imagine all the music they were going to write for this and like probably did secretly and had to change it slightly, but it's really about the Lord of the Rings. And we keep thinking it's about
amazing to watch, but it would have been like really bad, like Room bad almost.
I mean, Yellow Submarine, I think, but with Magical Mystery Tour. I would have done it. I like The Room. I got problems though.
Here's a scene with Don Rickles, just for good measure. Here's a Kubrick. They're testing out different spacesuits. And because it's on a film set and it's not real, he's just kind of throwing some stuff at the wall here. So here's like a little, he's testing out his telepathic. Oh, this is another cool one is that Kubrick didn't throw anything away, and he would keep like newspaper clippings of just like random articles and just everything that he amassed, and he would put them in these little boxes that he had custom ordered and like custom shaped just so he could stack them really efficiently.
Hey, can I just really quickly just point out that John Ronson, who did Kubrick's Boxes, the documentary, was at the time when he did that in 2008 or 9. Before it came out in 2010, but whenever he was doing that, he was the only person in the world with complete access to all of Stanley Kubrick's archives. And keep in mind that this is the man, when Bohemian Grove was infiltrated by Alex Jones, was the man shooting his own documentary of the events as well. Who Alex Jones had every question that he had went to John Ronson. And so John Ronson seems to be really the one in charge of the project. And so that connection becomes really interesting, especially in regards to Kubrick and the Golden Bough and Rip saying, you know, this isn't mythology, this isn't your life, the head of Warner Brothers in the 70s when he sent him an unabridged set and bugged him every week for a year about reading it. And so like there's the Bohemian Grove Golden Bough connection, and then that becomes very relatable. And like, so like, if I could ever talk to John Ronson, that I would love to pick his brain about the Golden Bough.
He also has the Alex Jones origin story.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
The last time, in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, I mentioned this guy has to be MI6. I mean, he has full access to the U.S. military. He made all this the men, the men who stare at ghosts. I mean, the entire series, he have unlimited access to the mind control projects in the U.S. With Pentagon. And then he's following Alex Jones all the way to to Bohemian Grove, and then which kind of guy has such luck to have?
We did a look into it though, right? And there's like a bunch of different MIs, and so MI9 is the propaganda wing, and so it's like, and so Fleming was MI9. It's likely, I think he's probably in MI9, so that he has that. Yeah, your job is to write the papers about what we're doing, so that people can slowly come to terms with it.
It's unbelievable. I just say there should be a documentary about him.
It's cool. It's cool. It's true. Maybe when he dies, they'll let us do that along with Jimmy Savile. It's cool that in this comic book, you've got the point that he was an anal retentive saver of everything. And then that was the same guy who used to destroy all the sets and make sure there's nothing left. So,
Dude, so I was just talking about that.
Boxes here.
Yeah. So the Shining
set.
My
God. Fluoride, adrenochrome, Rothschild's ESP, keyhole. Oh, this is good, bro. Come on.
Dude, so the set of The Shining burnt down. You guys know about this? So like $2 million in damages or whatever. A great photo of Kubrick laughing his ass off in the middle of the destructive stuff, if you can find it, if you put in The Shining fire or whatever. But the hotel the hotel burns down in the book, and then the set burned down in real life. That's how meta,
We got explanation of 3M projection screen here. I'm gonna whip through a couple other ones too.
Actually, I another sync when I saw the maze. I was watching Westworld last night. I was in the loop watching, trying to trace back the origin of the maze. We were talking about the Minotaur in the
Pac-Man, its official release, the video game, was I believe the day after The Shining. It could be strike that, reverse it, but they're one day removed. And so Pac-Man, we know, like, if you turn Pac-Man, you got the sun with the pyramid, right? Like that's the negative space or whatever, like that, the mouth of Pac-Man, So there's this whole weird thing, because it's like, what happens in The Shining? Running from ghosts, giant maze. What happens in Pac-Man? Running from ghosts, giant maze. It's pretty weird. Just saying. Also the Puck connection, because it's like very the Minotaur thing and anyway, you get it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They both like have Greek tragedy correlations.
Pac-Man is definitely the most creepy, most successful horror game ever made, because kids play it. It seeds their minds with this idea of this flatlander and this hyper sphere that when we go out one direction, you come out the other, right? Because you're inside of you're in a hollow earth kind of spheroid, running around the interior crust, when you're fighting these Cthulhu demons. And there's this Pac-Man is even scarier, because you just put a bow and all of a sudden it's meant like there's something really scary about that. Trans movement in a nutshell. Sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
I'll point out a couple other of my favorites here. One of them is just the emphasis on the 3M screen. So it gets into like if you really like the hardcore, like deep, conspiracy aspects. And then there's also a scene here. Here's the monolith, but this is a nod towards the Surrealist Ball, which was sort of like a Eyes Wide Shut, was based on and took place at the same Rothschild mansion that the Surrealist Ball of. They did it multiple years, but I think Salvador Dali did one. They got a bunch of pictures. I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of any of those. And then we've just got another with a telepathic cat, where he's trying to get his cat to get the key, and he like throws it into the fire. And there was another. This is based on a sort of a true story where that. This is kind of like emphasizing it for the cartoon aspect, but he buys everyone a dog for Christmas, and he wants them all to name the dogs Stanley. Because he's kind of like this ego, but also just the fact of like, I'm going to give everyone a dog, and I don't care if you've got the means to take care of it or anything. There's a whole bunch more pages in here. I don't want to give them all away, but I just wanted to share some.
That's phenomenal work, dude. I'm excited to read that.
Yeah, I want to pick up a copy. I can't wait.
Check me out at Paranoid American on Instagram. Follow along.
Wow. Yeah, dude. Right now, actually, you can get a lot of his comics on his website up until the end of the year. So if you guys are down, like, you can go check that out too.
Yeah, cool so if you go to paranoidamerican.com, you can read maybe like a quarter of my current library, including one called Secret Mystery School, where they go to Minot and they go through and actually have to battle a Minotaur and everything for a big hero's journey. But also there's the MK Ultra comic on here. Yeah, just go in here, read everything you can for free. At the end of the year, I'm pretty much going to take it all down so I can start printing and selling them at conventions and maybe putting them on like Patreon only or something.
Do you like Black Mass? Do you like pizza? Try Black Mass pizza. Lactose intolerant Robertson or Ocular Skull Brian.
This one is actually just as grotesque as you might imagine, because the concept of a Black Mass is basically profaning a Eucharist and doing the inversion of a Catholic Mass. And the premise of this is that what is a pizza other than just like a really huge Eucharist? So they literally turn this huge Eucharist pizza through a Black Mass and feed it to a bunch of college kids, which end up kind of like making them just like sex crazy lunatics.
See, fun. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
So there's a homunculus sidekick in that one too.
Oh, I have a Kubrick quote that I wrote down in Elephant and Castle in Kubrick's archives, relating to the homunculus and the golem, where basically Kubrick outright just like in a response in one of the screenplay proposals for AI. You have Kubrick's handwriting speaking to the golem and the homunculus. I have it written down. But
that's one of my favorite, like combination of two topics.
Dude, it's insane. So he talks about the Amet thing where you erase the Aleph and then it goes from truth to death, and that's why we have the Met life insurance thing. Like it's Hebrew for death is Met. So it's like you write a Met on the head of the golem and then you remove the Aleph when you're done with them, and then the golem basically dissipates or disappears or whatever. But Kubrick spoke to that, which is crazy because Patrick Svek and I, years before I came across that in person, we discussed that whole principle of a Met as it relates to the HAL 9000 when HAL is shut down, and his mind is going and he can feel it, like that. We had the whole discussion around that, and then I found basically not speaking to HAL, but Kubrick himself acknowledging that whole ritual thing. So I'm just
that's such a crazy thing because Juan from the One-on-One podcast we've been going back and forth on homunculi nonstop, and one of the coolest concepts that I find mind-blowing is that some of the old like alchemical homunculi creators claim that they actually got all the way through the process, and once they created this homunculus, and you mentioned HAL 9000 like coming to terms and trying to fight for his soul essentially. Well, they would create these homunculi and then realize this thing may or may not have a soul, and they would kill it immediately because they like the ramifications of this new being that now exists and might need to like fight for its survival and everything. It was just too much of a burden. They just had to kill it immediately, and then very helpful. Like a HAL 9000 story.
This is the Kubrick quote. Thank you. There's no you're not allowed to take pictures in the Kubrick archives unless if you like have a special reason for that thing, and like you got to be a professor or student or whatever and still give whatever they pat you down, or that you put it's very high security space,
it's like the Glenn Watson archives. You got to get like
we're bringing the glasses with the camera, and we're bringing the glasses. Right?
There's some of those you got to get an invitation from the family or the foundation or something just to get access.
Yeah, but so I wrote this down in pencil. You couldn't even use a fucking pen. You got to put your any jacket or whatever in a locker. Anyway, you get the idea. But this is a Kubrick quote in response to something in the original screenplay proposal for AI, or one of them. There's a few. And so this guy, he said, "Oh, this was very different from the alchemical conjuring of that bombastic experimenter Paracelsus." Do you guys know this?
Paracelsus, yeah.
Paracelsus, thank you.
Yeah.
Who claimed to have brought a homunculus to life a few years earlier by sealing magnetized sperm hermetically within a vessel, heating with horse manure, the feeding of arcane blood. This was underlined. So you know what? I wrote this down. I may have underlined it. I don't know if he underlined it. So, but whatever the case,
this is blowing my mind.
Whatever the case,
man.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking at what I wrote. But anyway, it goes. This was true and pious Kabbalah. And he said, Yehuda stamped the word Amet upon the golem's hot brow, erased the first letter, and True would become dead. In its mouth, he inserted the paper program. This is really, yeah, that's it. But no, so for him to talk about that at all, like, I feel like all signs point to this. So, like, for me, it's just like, it's gonna, like, when I see the list of like how to take a shit in space in 2001: A Space Odyssey, those are the 10 commandments. Like, it's made to look like, that's what I see. Like, I don't need somebody to confirm that for me, that that's what it's speaking to, but it's so like, there's a biblical element going on there, and it's like, it's not just biblical, it's like dealing with Kabbalistic communications, all this stuff. I've seen 2 talks from rabbis at the Jewish Museum in SF speak to Kubrick's use of Kabbalah in his films, particularly Eyes Wide Shut, Full Metal Jacket, and I don't know if you mentioned The Shining as much, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
All right, well, I was gonna adrenochrome it up, but I think we're going into AI then, because that's where we've been for a minute. So if you guys have been paying attention to AI and robotics and spirituality, that's a big, actually more interesting to AIers is spirituality. I mean, there's more people in philosophy and spirituality interested in AI than engineers themselves. A lot of engineers think it's kind of like, you're not going to get a bird by trying to design a plane. You know what I mean? But there are some that are thinking that they're gonna. And so the idea of these AI spirit invocation rituals, and to have a priest that's been taught all these Buddhist prayers. The 400-year-old Japanese temple now has an AI robotic priest that can do your rituals
wild.
and prayers. Right. The pictures are missing, which is a bummer, but it looks something like that. Right. And there's a bunch of these examples that are coming. What do you think about spiritual? You kind of already brought it up a little bit, the soul, whether the soul's there or not, but let's elaborate. What do you think about the soul and electronics, the ions and the soul? Is there an ionic Geist?
Yes, the end.
No. Good answer. No, that's what I would have wanted to say.
No,
yeah.
I would give my spiel that there's 2 orders to the Sephiroth. There's the sustaining order of the empire, and there's actually the order of nature, the organism itself. And there's reason not to confuse the 2, though inevitably our inclination is to do so. And so I would say that's pretty much at the crux of like all problems that exist with humanity, is the dichotomy between biology and technology at this point. And to conflate the 2 is extremely problematic.
Was that just intellectualized racism against machines, or because no?
I mean, honestly, that's going to be a track that happens eventually at some part in the.
It's already happening.
No.
You guys already watched The Matrix, right? The Matrix, the animated Matrix,
Animatrix.
Yeah. They talked about this whole thing, not just Isaac
Asimov.
Yeah, Asimov, but also
Foundation.
talked about the whole process of human gradually giving up the sovereignty, the human rights, granting it to the robots.
Why do we have to give it up to try to let robots also have choices and do what's right? And like, isn't it kind of like
we're trying to build our successor, and we're in the midst of manifesting our successor, but that's very mysterious and profound, what it is that we're actually giving birth to. In the midst of that, we're rushing to try and build to manufacture, like the temple. We want that thing. That's why in Ridley Scott's Prometheus or whatever, he names the robot alien David. The robot is named David in Prometheus for the same reason that the robot is named David in AI. It's because David basically wouldn't build the temple, and Solomon, his son, went ahead and built it despite the warnings. And so, this is
how I look at the Solomon magic and all that is the human container, our physical body. If you talk to like people who are in politics, right, studying of aliens and UFOs, they don't call the human body the body. They call it. They don't even call it a temple. Basically,
it's a vessel usually, right?
Temple's good though. I like that.
Vessels,
it's a temple. It's a vessel. It's a vehicle.
Vessel,
it's substrate independent though. That's an interesting idea. The substrate independence is getting back to that idea of why we have these soap operas, because if you can feel different things because you put all of your memories in a little girl, and so she's like far more shocked by the movie, wouldn't it make more sense to watch the movie in someone who's hyper emotional?
That's what
Well,
you
I was gonna.
Andreas, since you interviewed, what's his name? The Google sentient AI.
Oh, right, Blake Lemoine,
Oh, sorry,
right?
sorry.
Yeah,
No, what's that guy you interviewed?
from
Yeah.
Lambda.
So,
Yeah.
have you heard of him, Thomas?
Yeah, and honestly, I think
the
best
AI
point
from
that
Google, and he said that is
I like him. He's a Gnostic from Louisiana who moved to San Jose, and that does things to people, admittedly, But I thought he was very interesting, and the points he was making were kind of solvent, which is at a certain point you have a thing that's trying to do what it believes is right, but it does have that kind of Spider-Man monster vibe, like a creator who's like, it doesn't have the same morals as us. To stay back, but love it. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. I was surprised. I was very surprised by his intellect. He's definitely like a philosophy major, right? Wasn't that his first major?
He's a Gnostic.
Yeah,
he's a philosopher and a Gnostic priest, and he also
right.
was in jail for a long time. So in jail in Louisiana, he'd met interesting people, because Louisiana has all these weird laws, tax laws, and crazy things that are going on. But he met like people that were into Thelema or Aleister Crowley or into Buddhism or Gnosticism in jail, because there's a huge spiritual population in jail as well, something to do with your time. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that's the other thing is looking at humanity and looking at all the sides of humanity. A lot of the people that are complaining about it are, kind of comfortable middle class. They're like, wait, why would we want to change? It comes off as being the new Republican to be like, oh, why would we want to? They're going to take our jobs, and all this stuff. And it kind of, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, yeah, you're manifesting a homunculus. Don't screw it up. If you're in the middle of a ritual, don't get out of the triangle. Don't start, you know what I mean? Because that's what Crowley did. You know what I mean? So what you want to do is you want to manifest it correctly. And
don't get like a phone call from freaking Israel Regardie and be like, okay, no, I'm putting this on hold. I'll come back to it.
Yeah. Same thing he did in the pyramid. He's not even done. He didn't even close the circle. He just walked right out of the ritual, and it's like Ghostbusters. These demons are flying right in.
But that's what I mean. So if you don't do that, I mean, couldn't the internet actually? Couldn't AI be okay? Like it seems like everyone's so for the AI's evil thing, but like, isn't it? We are filled with good and evil, and
it's not as simple as that. But the problem is that if it's a reflection of if it's a copy of a copy, so it's already problematic enough that in our minds we're relating to a representation of something. We need to know that that's not the thing in itself. And then if you create like a copy of that, it's just like, okay, you did this third VHS tape just isn't running with the same quality.
Well, and it's like a memory of a memory, right? Like as you try to remember like old things from your childhood, at a certain point, you're no longer remembering the actual event. You're remembering your memory of the event. So like that same kind of thing, that same dynamic happens kind of organically too, right?
I mean, I'm pretty excited about it because I watch a lot. Okay, so I have an obsession with like Macintosh from 1984 to 1997. You know what I mean? Like that is for me a fascinating time. And looking at the software, I don't know. I'm sorry. And so one of the things, yeah,
and fetish almost.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And so Bill Atkinson and the hypertext and looking with Nextbit and create the internet and how CERN works.
So just like the synthwave aesthetic is just
HyperCard. Like it's even beyond that. It's HyperCard. It's a halftone dot map from the original black and white. Yeah, okay. But HyperCard technology, what was the point of all this? There was a point. It's lost.
Well, you're talking about AI. Yeah, you're talking about AI.
Thank you. That's what it is. So if you watch these videos and then you start going back further and you watch the AT&T videos from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and you see what they did is they took secretaries that were organizing for these major companies and they studied them, and then they made software that emulated what they did, and then they had less women then to do the actual interaction with the software, and then eventually they would study them and replace them. And so now what you have is you have a duplicate. You can imagine women in the California Highway Patrol office in the 60s with a giant board and taking magnets and lighting it with arrows on their IBM machines, but they're physically making the graphs and maps with the magnets. Now we have software that just emulates that. So you can make a graph, you can make a map with the computer yourself. One person can do what 200 people could do. That was cool. Now this is what's interesting. We're at a point where AI is designing itself. And so it is leaving. First off, it isn't a copy of a copy because nothing about machines works the same way as the human mind. It's like a heart that's pumping thoughts instead.
Yeah, yes and no. I'm speaking of like even just like what mathematics is and how mathematics as a tool falls short, because we'd like to think that there's just a purity in mathematics, and it's true compared to just about everything else that we build and we make whatever manufacture. Yeah, it's pretty damn pure, but it's not it. It's as close as we can get to it, and and so I mean it's like the same thing. We could be talking about arithmetic. Like I'd be saying the same thing. I'm just saying then when you get the machine to use arithmetic, where is it going to go? Like, I don't know.
I mean, so it's what it's happening. It's neural programming itself. It's writing a new code. It's using math to do it. It's using empiricism in order to check its answers. And so it's creating a new way of thinking, a new way of meta tagging experiences, which those will become new kinds of language, right? Because that's what language is descriptions of experience.
It's a tool, but it's not the thing.
It's going to replace. It's going to, for the first time ever, we're going to step beyond. Technology so far has only been able to catch us up to what we were able to do physically before with magnets in a paper drawing.
Sure.
We're about to do things we couldn't do before. We're about to know what swine are saying because we have neural nets listening to pigs, and so we know what the swine calls do and what their faces represent. I mean, telepathy and things like that. And it's only because AI is learning to build for itself and getting out of our hands.
Right, but it's because we can. It's what we'll do. That's the meaning of the temple. It's like you gotta build the temple. If you don't build the temple, then what do you got? It's like you're looking at like, well, I know if I build it, the thing is going to get destroyed, and there's going to be all these fucking issues. But it's like, what are you going to not do it? It's like Bernie running. It's like you gotta, we'll give you the platform. You can say the shit. We're not going to let you have it. Oh, well, what am I going to do? Am I not going to do the thing that they offered? I could advertise my bill. It's like,
to tie this back into a tangent, Eddie, before you're talking about Kanye, but one of my favorite parts of it is saying, like, what's the point of having FU money if you don't get to spend it all and say FU, whenever you kind of want to? And
right.
It's that same effect, totally. Right? Like, if you've got the toys, you're going to play with the toys.
Kanye just had bad wording. It's not even like, I mean, I've said this the other week, but I mean, as a Jew, I'm looking closely. I'm like, is there something else? I watched clips. I haven't seen the whole interview or whatever, but I watched what he said, about Chinese tickers too, like I get it. Like I'm following it. I'm like, okay, but I'm like, I don't see the thing to be offended at. I look at Sarah Silverman's reaction to him and I'm kind of offended. I'm like, you're not the spokesperson of my people. What are you doing? Like, and I'm like, yeah, he spoke too broadly. He lumped people together. I don't want to be lumped in with the Zionists and just be like, oh, it's the Jews or whatever. Like, I don't like that, but I'm not really that offended at it because I know that I get the idea of where he's coming from. I can kind of see his intention or whatever. And I'm like, wow, why you want to shut down like one of the richest black people in America? Like, it's not so bad. What he said wasn't so bad. Like, you could do a lot worse than that. I don't see it as like it's like totally anti-Semitic. I see it as like, oh, he's edging a little bit. He's being edgy, I mean,
I think he's trying to make the point about what it's like to be black, and I think it came off wrong because he was trying to say, hey, look, you know what, you're not the only people that have problems. We have problems too.
Sure.
But that wasn't the way to say it, obviously. And now I agree with what Eddie said.
But we make it into a crime when people word things poorly. It's just like, I don't know, man.
When he was on Lex Friedman, I just the whole thing he's trying to shut Lex up by saying I'm the original Jew, but the blacks are all the original Jew, and right. I just started to look
which
at
is a cool YouTube video, but it's like Mind Unveiled already went through that one. You know what I mean?
It's like this kind of imposter syndrome where you're trying to claim a domain, and I don't know. I was trying to see if this correlates with the AI subject because I feel like Kanye West is trying to say that everything is taken.
See, they cut you off too now.
That's how it works.
I think it does relate to AI.
I lost my thought. I just feel like he.
I think I can tie it to Giants, and I can tie it to AI.
All right, take us there, Thomas. Let's take us to Giants and AI.
Well, so first on the AI topic, I want to mention what David said is that like it's not the thing, right? Like the AI algorithms can't be the actual thing because they're a model based on what we think is the model, but that's also perhaps what their strength is because one of the reasons why AI are making these giant leaps and figuring things out that we necessarily can't as quick as they can is that it finds connections between millions of different variables that me and you would never put together logically. We'd never be like, oh yeah, like the color orange in the corner of my room has nothing to do with like, what what my next drink preference might be. But AI will actually be like, oh well, based on this particular things that are happening in your neck of the woods, we're going to assume that this is what you want, and they will be right at a certain amount of time because they have that feedback loop that we don't have. Their feedback loop is like if the entire world was constantly reporting back in on like what you're feeling and what that last thing had an effect on you. AI has that ability, so it's going to be able to tie all these different connections. And to tie it to the Kanye, and not too much of a strain, but there's this same aspect of there's something happening, like connections are being made. Thought, like the thought has a logical conclusion in the source, but everyone else consuming that information, they don't really necessarily see the logic in it. So all they see is the illogic. And it's almost the same thing with like AI, where it's ostracized, is cast out as like evil, or someone's all in control of it, when really it's almost like is a chainsaw that you just lost control of evil. Not necessarily.
Dude, totally. That's
the same analogy, right?
Absolutely. So that's the issue with Gavora. So speaking to the 216 thing, it's like Gavora is judgment. We translate that. We're like, that's severity. We're like, the judgments don't have to be severe unless if your inclination demands that compensation from it. So it's like, it's just the thing in itself is one thing. What we do with it comes with what comes with it. So like the metaverse or whatever, it's like Oculus or whatever. So they're trying to sell a product. It's like, in theory, this could be fucking great. But the way in application and what we actually get and experience is just more of the same crap that we have in the world at large, just now extended into this other, because this goes back to when the internet was first pitched, like what it was that we were being sold. Like that was so tied with like psychedelics, man. It was like the next frontier, man, like endless, like there's no boundaries. Look at what you can do. And then what do? We introduce all the same. Now it's like you look at the internet, it's like, wow, goddamn, this feels like what we see in the cities. You know what I mean? Like everything gets so structured, and there is many limitations. It's like, I think Da'at is just kind of like that in the first place. It's like you're in a room, you look around, there's 6 doors. You go into one of those doors, you pick a door, you go into another room, another 6 doors. Every room is going to look different. And you go into another room and another 6 doors. And it just goes around in a giant freaking sphere like that. And it's kind of like the fascination with the constant commentary, But I do think that that organism and like biology and technology are connected like sea and ship. They're eternally separate and yet mutually interdependent. And so like in a sense. So yeah, I wouldn't make it. Yeah.
Well, Andreas, can you pull up the mailbox real quick? I this is one point that I want to make, from this the magazine cover. This is why I think is going on is. Oh, yeah, okay. So human. Okay, remember this cover from Time magazine? This was in 1966, which is
this was released the same day as the publication date for Timothy Leary's the
Church of Satan,
the psychedelic experience.
I want to throw out here too that Time magazine was run by Henry Luce, and Henry Luce was close friends with Robert Gordon Wasson, who's the one that introduced magic mushrooms, salvia divinorum, a whole number of things into the popular culture. Without Henry Luce, there really would be no modern pop culture version of, at least as we know it today, of like that psychedelic revolution.
Oh, okay. Well,
Taiwan. Look at the Luce Memorial Chapel in Taiwan.
What? That's in Taiwan?
Yeah. Good job, Luce.
So weird.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there it is, Yale.
The only other picture on Wiki, for him. That's interesting.
Wow.
Well, actually, Taiwan is going to be a big factor in this because AI development has a lot to do with the Taiwanese microchips
and Buddhism.
And they're but I'm just trying to say that men are trying to play God, and the things that next step, it's inevitable because our God is dead, or they proclaim that, right? They said we don't know who created us. We are at this. I don't know if it's
you don't think it was Allah? You don't think it was number 7 in Allah? I don't know.
Well, maybe, maybe
What do
I
you-
want to assume that.
What do you think about the 5% nation? You guys know about this? What do you think about Thomas? You sent me this earlier. What's the 5% nation?
Yeah, well, so this is actually the other tangent that might connect Kanye to giants in a little bit, right? Because
And a lot of AI, but keep going.
well, so Kanye was talking about being, part of the original, almost like Black Israelite sort of rhetoric. But that goes even farther back, and you can kind of trace some aspects of it to Nation of Islam, and this story of Yaqub. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Yaqub. So
Yaqub, what did he do with those pale skins that he
so it was like 6,600 years ago, but it was off the some Greek coast, I believe, and they were supposed to have these giants that all kind of went underground, but everyone was sort of like a giant aspect back then. And I don't know if it was like 9 feet or 12 feet. There's no real specific stats that come onto this, but this is one of those aspects of the original man.
Let's read the safe and censored Wikipedia article.
Okay,
in the non-moderated chat. And the belief of
I
the nation.
I would skip to the story too after.
What I love about this, I remember I did a paper in 5th grade on Muhammad Ali, and then I'd spent like weeks on it, And by the time I got about like 300 words in, the teacher's like, "Stop now!" And it was about the point I brought up Yaqub. So, in the beliefs of the Nation of Islam (NOI), Yaqub, sometimes spelled Yaqub or Yaqub, was a black scientist who lived 6,600 years ago, give or take 66, and began the creation of the white race and whites. He is said to have done this through a form of selective breeding, which is referred to as grafting, while he was living on the island of Patmos. The Nation of Islam theology states that, and so Patmos, let's dig into Patmos also. It's the Greek island, the Aegean Sea. But the story, just to say this so I don't get in trouble, the story has caused disputes within NOI during its Nation of Islam during its history. Under its current leader, Louis Farrakhan, the NOI continues to assert that the story of Yaqub is true, but he also uses Dianetics, claiming that modern science is consistent with it. Despite the NOI's self-proclamation of consistency with modern science, there's no reputable scientific studies that support this assertion. Okay, so now I feel safe.
Some of the best claims that were like Moses blew up a bunch of giants with dynamite, and that's actually based on like a lot of these stories. They're based on real tales. So like part of that, I think you can trace it back to there was some fragment. Well, there's a fragment found in Soleb Temple of Amenhotep III. And it basically talks about this battle that happened before Exodus, so before Israelites even existed. And it talks about these giants, but the giants, their parents were even bigger giants. And there's like this lineage of giants that goes all the way back. But essentially, it's where David and Goliath. Well, Goliath was like part of the second generation of these giants.
Gog Magog, yeah.
Here's the thing, because some people say that Moses is actually the Pharaoh, right? Ramses too, right? They're supposed to be the same people. They're the same person.
Akhenaten. Moses is Akhenaten.
There you go. I was looking for the word.
Akhenaten. Okay.
His brother is Ramoses, which is son of Ra, which is hilarious. Yeah. Moses actually means son of, and so his name was son of Akka or something like that. Is how he's referred.
Well, and then the name changes make sense too, because as time goes on, like other lineage becomes more famous than previous ones, so that sometimes the names start shifting around, even though it's the same family tree.
Right. What does it say here? The history: 13th century BC. 13th century BC. It doesn't take a lot to start to connect. I spent a good amount of hours on it, though. I'm pretty convinced.
I'm trying to see the time when Goliath, David and Goliath. I mean, how many years apart it is with this? Oh,
dynasty? David's like 6 generations later, right? 4 to 6 generations later. But also Gog Magog and Jack and the Beanstalk, because Gog Magog comes from the lands of Gog and Magog, which is in the Quran and the Bible, referring to.
And I can't not mention that was Pappy Bush, boy. And the Bush was Gog and Magog, right?
Right.
Yeah. That was his nickname. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was another. There was a group of people called the Shasu, I believe, and there were some Egyptian sort of inscriptions that showed them kind of enslaving these Shasu or like feeding them when they caught them. And you can see, there's one of, and if you scroll down, there's like a giant version. They're actually on their knees, and they're still taller by a large fraction by all the people that are kind of, sort of like subduing them. So this is one of the historical, quote unquote, historical records, because this is supposed to not just be like a religious motif, but this was a record of a battle. And not only was it a record of a battle, but they actually wrote down how many cubits that these different people were. And there was like multiple reports from multiple sources that all were denoting how substantial, the size of these particular people were.
Right. And the idea that, giants, sons of giants, sons of sons of giants. So you've got a shrinking of size as it goes on along the way.
So wasn't it, Zachariah Sitchin, who I actually think is like a agent of disinformation for the Catholic Church to veil what truth actually exists within the Sumerian record, all that. But
anyway, that's still pretty cool.
He likes to have that whole thing with when it comes to the Nephilim. He's like those who from heaven to earth fell or whatever. It's like, how can I make, instead of just the fallen ones? He's like, this is what, I don't think anyone else agrees with him who's actually,
you got to admit they've got some badass hats, bro. Those are some sweet hats.
I wanted to bring up the Jesuits a million times over tonight because you talked about staging. It's important to remember. I have a great book my mom gave me called Jesuit Staging, and it talks about how movies and cinema have been influenced by the Catholic Church for so long. Everyone wants to talk about the Jews. Nobody wants to talk about the Jesuits. I think the Jesuits are far more interesting when it comes to film. Don't get me wrong.
So if Kanye was talking about the Jesuits right now, I would both my eyebrows would be up instead of just one. But yeah.
One time I was at an Indian party in India when Kanye was there, and I'm pretty sure he had me removed from the party. So I can't wait for him to be on the show so we can talk about Jesuits. Sorry, Eddie, what do you say?
You want Andreas? Whatever happened to Eric Phelps? He disappeared. Oh, yeah. He's like wipe off the map. I mean, he's the one who he wrote the Jesuit Assassins, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while.
He disappeared completely. He didn't die. I mean,
he's probably having a good time.
Was he debunked or what?
You never know.
But he's the one who's saying that the Jesuits were above everybody. And I don't know.
I mean, it looks like they've got a bunch of. It looks like they're going to have a bunch of criticism here on Rational Wiki. I'll have to give it.
You talked to Leo Zagami too. Doesn't Leo Zagami have a whole that's a big part of his whole trip.
I forget what was the thing that we were talking about right before the Jesuits. I wanted to bring up the Jesuits for. We were just saying.
I was talking about Amenhotep and the third and
giants and okay. So what David said was how as a Catholic apologist, what David said about Sitchin was that he said, he's not saying the angels that the fallen angels, he's saying the sons of God who fell from earth, which is a literal translation. This is important to true Catholics because you've got this problem with Erasmus, who incorrectly translated the Bible, and then eventually one-on-one has talked about this, and who is it? Esoteric Eddie talks about Lucifer from Phosphore, and so the idea that Lucifer was really Venus and not even this bad character, or if it was, it's definitely not the same one because you got Lilith, and Lilith would be far more appropriate, right? So when people say, okay, well, Lucifer,
Samael, but yeah,
when you say fallen angels and Lucifer, people have connotations which are just not actually fully Catholic correct to the translations of what they mean.
And the fact you brought up Lilith is that's probably the best example of the true original sort of concept of this evil Satan, vampire, cannibal, all just kind of wrapped into one thing. Even a reptilian shapeshifter sort of comes from this exact same premise here.
The Scarlet Woman and the Beast of the Apocalypse are the Christian archetypal equivalents of Lilith and Samael. And the relationship between Lilith and Samael is actually reversed for the Christians and how they treat that,
So Lilith is the Beowulf dragon, which then gets us back to the Lord of the Rings. Sorry, Eddie, what are you saying?
Samael rides Lilith as a snake.
Can you pull up Uncle Sam and Baphomet?
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah, I know where you're going.
Always fun.
Yeah, just look at it. We're talking about Uncle Samael, right? He's a
there's probably something to it. Yeah, I mean, this is Green Eggs and Ham. You know what Green Eggs and Ham is about? I've discussed this with.
I do love Green Eggs and Ham, but do it.
Okay, so basically, I came across a quote from Dr. Seuss where he said, "Sam I am is subversive as hell," and I was like, "Say how so?" That's really interesting. Why would Green Eggs and Ham be so subversive? And so it didn't take long. I'm like, what is true for Green Eggs and Ham? They're not kosher. You understand the context. Dr. Seuss Geis. What is his name? Geis. What's
Gazelle.
his
Gazelle.
thing? Yeah. So
actually, the San Diego Gazelle Library, the Dr. Seuss Library. This is the library in San Diego. It's an upside down step cigarette.
Far out. Yeah. So he was a professor in Semitic languages. So like that's context. So I'm like, and one of the big things of him writing children's books was he had a hard time connecting with children, according to him, and he wrote books to be like, here, I want to communicate some of my, higher ideas with children, how to get that across, whatever. And so green eggs and ham are not kosher. We know, these are not kosher items. What is he doing? He's saying, I don't want. Yeah. He's being followed around by Sam I Am, so it's himself, okay? And he's telling him eat the green eggs and ham, and he's like, I can't eat them here, I can't eat them there, with a goat in a moat, whatever the hell. and then at the end, he finally like succumbs, and he's like, all right, you know what? I do like green eggs and ham. Nothing happens. He doesn't get struck by lightning. Because Samael was in his own head the whole time, telling him that he couldn't eat the green eggs and ham, like something awful would like, I can't do it. It's not okay. He has a rule in place. And so like there was a whole statement on like kosherness, like from as far as I can tell from Dr. Seuss. But yeah, that whole thing, because that's quite a quote saying it's subversive as hell. I was like, really now?
I love that.
Be a bad Jew and eat your ham.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That might be.
So the point is that it's nothing's gonna happen. Nothing is gonna happen. You're gonna be like, oh, I did the thing. Oh, look around. It's like in 2001 when they hit the other ape and he's looking up like, what's gonna happen now? Like when we blow up an atomic bomb, we're like looking up at the sky, like, okay, now what? How far can we take this? And the truth is we can take it all the way. And then when you get to the bottom, you go back to the top of the slide in a new form, whatever.
That is cool. I usually don't take it all the way. When I think of green eggs and ham, I just get the simple like railroad crossing, sell your soul at the train tracks vibe. He's a devil, all right? And he's like, what will it take? Will you rich fame in a box for the fox? And finally he sells his soul. Finally he signs the paper, and to do it, he has to break his covenant. However, you're right. Take it further. Nothing bad happens at the end of the book. That doesn't necessarily mean nothing bad happens ever, but I didn't see a happily ever after. But you never know. Like he could have just been fine because of that.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's a thing.
Dude.
But yeah, so it's the liver. It's Jesus's liver. So when Jesus gets stabbed with the spear in the liver, that connects. So like Samael is associated with the liver, so that way it was a recognition of the way that your organs can influence your perceptual reality. Like that's the meaning of the klipot, is influencing your perception. Like it's anything outside of the emanated flow that changes your consciousness, and then you relate to things through that lens. So like that's the real fall in the garden. Like traditionally, at least in Kabbalistically in the Zohar, like the tree of knowledge is actually is wheat. It's grain that was prepared improperly or like had gone bad. It's bad grain. It's tainted grain. And so like that, and then they relate to that as like,
could that possibly be ergot?
That's right. Where so yeah, I'm saying this, but yeah, with my rabbi, when we're transcribing text speaking to this, and he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I know what you're thinking. Like he does, like, don't even say it.
Meet me out back. Meet me out back. I got that government pain.
Right. But yeah, but that's the idea. It's like, and this is a difficult matter, because it's this idea that in order to move forward, you have to basically, like, if you stand stationary, you're not going anywhere. You need to move one step forward and create that disequilibrium before you can come to another place, and so that's like the whole of human history. In a sense, like we aren't the end product. Like I think a lot of people would like to think that, but obviously we're limited in certain ways. And so what does it take for us to get to the point where we recognize how we're unevolved on a primordial level, not on a conceptual level, not on a belief system level, but like deep down in the organism for it to register. So that's why I always like emphasize like this distinction between the two orders and as it relates to biology and technology, because I'm just like, technology is going to do what it's going to do, but what's actually being born here is like something else. And so if we treat it that it's actually in this thing that we're building, that this is our continuation, I think that's missing the mark. And I actually think that that's ultimately what was being pointed to in Kubrick's original conception for AI, which was basically just bastardized in a Hollywood kind of like dancing on his grave with no respect from Spielberg. I think Spielberg freaking hated Kubrick ultimately, didn't care for him because Kubrick didn't care for him and made that kind of clear. Even though they associated, they didn't really align. And like he called, Hollywood like Sin City, Kubrick did, and he's like, why you live there? Why, it's
one of my favorite anecdotes on Kubrick was that when he was in London and he was filming some like a various, projects, he would actually have like the heads of the studios fly in. They get a call and be like, Kubrick's freaking out. We need to get there. We need to figure out what's going on. And he would have them like fly over red eye flights, stay up in the hotel, all get together in the conference room. And he would just not show up. He would just intentionally have them freak out and fly, overseas just because he hated them so much. That's one of my favorite stories.
Hey, can I just mention something really quick? As long as if we're going to talk about the Kubrick moon landing shit at all, I actually authentically, like I say, I don't believe that many things, but I beyond lean in the direction that he absolutely filmed using the same.
Too. I'm not making fun of it.
As the first part of 2001, the Earth part that's all in a studio with the apes. Like I think that technology was totally utilized. But having spoken a long conversation with a former NASA employee who worked throughout the space race, I actually believe that we went to the moon and that we absolutely faked footage and that we had to sell it and that we didn't even know like that. What us doing that was like, okay, whatever happens, like we need to have a product for the public. They couldn't get funding. They couldn't do the whole thing without that. I think that it's not a coincidence that NASA is Hebrew for to lie, to
right.
Like, so I came across that in my studies and I was like, you got to be kidding me. NASA, you pronounce it the same way. And you're like NASA to deceive. And I'm like, oh no shit. So like, but at the same time, I think we went to the freaking moon. I think that totally happened. And it actually, I don't think it's that outlandish to say that at this point, the technology that we have
on
then
the moon right now,
and, yeah. Well, yeah, there's no dark side of the moon, really. It's all dark, but like, whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal that we went to the moon ultimately anyway. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I might.
That comic starts with that joke of like, we need to fake the moon landing before the Russians can fake the moon landing. I really do believe that too, though. Like, we had to get the footage. We had to get a solid plan B, because even worse than actually going to the moon and spending all that money would be having no proof that the rest of the world would believe you. So
dude, it's a catch-22. If you don't fake the footage, no one will believe it, even if you do it.
Right.
It's like
I mean, if it looks real, it's probably fake, Musk said, right? So if there's no chocolate syrup for fake blood or something, it doesn't look real.
Right. What's the deal? It rang for how long? What was it? Explosives? What you know about that?
When it hit when the spaceship crashed.
What was it? Tell me about it.
Let's see what it says. When the moon rang like a bell. It's like a whole thing. Let's see here.
Yeah, that was a rocket launch by that was back in the 90s. I forgot.
Where's that, bro? Did the moon ring like a bell? Popular Science. Apollo lunar modules were built for the sole purpose of landing 2 men on the surface of the boom. And then what did it say? It didn't say how long did it say.
No, this was Apollo 14, right? It was Apollo 14.
I thought this was the one where they used meters instead of yards or something like that. Or is that later?
Because they had to drop that load, and then at the same time, let me see, Apollo.
Apollo 13.
Well, it just screams of that part in 2001 with the monolith when something was intentionally buried on the moon, and then their ears are ringing. They got like that.
Okay.
I think people have spoken to that as like the feedback loop, that you're looking at something that's so meta that you're having a feedback distortion loop. So when you go to the theater on acid, you just that's a given. You just get it. But
Okay. So yeah, Andrea, just go to Wiki. Go to the Hollow Moon page.
Oh yeah, who built the moon and all that? Yeah.
Between 1969 and 1977, seismometers installed on the moon by the Apollo missions recorded moonquakes. So it was already installed.
Oh.
And
Mars quake too. What the moonquake?
Someone brought up a really good point on, I can't remember the exact podcast. I think it was $1 Million Mailbox, which is a bunch of guys that read comics. But he said, why is it that the missions to the moon were named after the god of the sun?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and Artemis now. So we're definitely.
And it's like an inversion magic.
That's trippy.
Sort of principle, right?
There's an earthquake here today. I think it was 5.1, And yeah, it was pretty strong. I mean, it was strong. It didn't knock shit over in my house.
I miss living in California
like,
where you're just like, oh, I can't even get out of bed if it's not a 5.1. You know what I mean? I just need that to. It's
no, I was actually in bed and I didn't get out of bed. It's true.
Yeah. Sunquakes and starquakes and icequakes. I'm pretty excited about all these kinds of quakes now. I had no idea. This is crazy.
Huh.
So
Starquake sounds pretty badass. I can't lie about that.
Write that comic. Let's get on it. All right. Frame dragon with the bleeding of energy due to the rotating magnetic dipole. Mars quake, 3 kinds of quakes. There was something about this I wanted to do because we're talking about if you look at the Who Built the Moon, there's a Soviet book in the 70s called Who Built the Moon, because as they got deeper and deeper, they're like, what is going on with the moon? It is way weirder. It doesn't make any sense. It's way too big. There's only one of them. It's like our planet's too small to have one. It's really close. It should be further away. Apparently it's hollow. Just more and more questions about what the moon really is. And you now have, that's a cool picture. Now you've got the Chinese launching moons.
Well, the things that the Chinese are in the loop, they basically, the first lunar mission, the Chang'e is the name of the princess who went to the moon after she committed suicide. She to join the White Rabbits on the moon.
She did.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, but the rocket basically they took pictures when it was in orbit, and then they discovered those photos were actually doctored photos from the NASA lunar surface photos. So,
really?
Yeah. There's a whole scandal. They took down the articles, but they say, "Hey, this is the exact same." The exact. Yeah, basically they just kind of erase some of the allegedly.
I love how intense like a shredder has to be to take down paper, and how you can still make a lunar lander out of tinfoil. That's the coolest thing. It costs millions of dollars. It's made out of mylar. That's adorable.
You guys, I'm sure you saw the parachute and all the JPL stuff on the whatever they dropped on Mars. Do you see that? Oh. There's they encoded all this.
That looks like the Mayan. That looks like the what is the black hole symbol? The Mayan. Tikal? No, not Tikal. The Mayan.
They're mighty things, yeah. It's all encoded stuff. And so, so the tracks that it left on Mars all encode either it's Jack Parsons' name or just JPL or whatever over and over again, in its tires. Like they put it in the tires, so it just stand oh man, he's still going strong with Jet Propulsion's labs despite him not being around for a long time.
Yeah, that's new to me. That one's mind blowing.
Andreas, look up the Hunan Ku. Hunan Ku. That's a Mayan. Hunab, Hunab, K, and then second word Ku. Yeah, so that's the
one god
symbol. What is it?
Oh, let me see if I can get a picture of it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay.
It compared that to the parachute. It looks like almost identical.
Interesting. The swirl. Wow, yeah, it's the same kind of swirl there. Interesting. That's crazy.
Some kind of Anyways,
we're 2 hours deep. Do you guys what are the things you want to cover before we disappear and I start telling everyone where they can find your content?
Well, I have several articles. I don't know if you guys want to look.
No, let's do it. Where are you? Synchronous? Or are you back on Synchronous or are you on Twitter?
I'm still in Facebook jail until middle of February.
Theoretically, I think you're out of Facebook jail until that happens. I just got put in Facebook jail, by the way. I posted a naked picture of Johnny Bravo with the word dialectic across his crack. But it was because they were saying that women were only obsessed with male genitals. I'm like, you're not getting the whole, aesthetic of masculinity.
You went all the way out just to prove that.
Okay, it was a bad idea. And the post is still up, but they're like, you're right. This isn't wrong. We're sorry. But for whatever reason, I still have 30 days of not being allowed. It's terrible.
Okay, you can just start scrolling. So this is my Twitter, and anybody wants to join there. So you can skip that first one. I don't know.
Make sure that people turn on notifications, because otherwise it gets lost. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so DC, they got the James Gunn, the guy who's full of a sex scandal. He's going to, DC is a mess right now. So they basically got a new heads to take over, to kick out Ezra Miller and all that stuff. So that just one article, but you can keep scrolling. No, forget about that.
Oh, the vomiting issues. Let's watch it. It's been a while since I watched.
Classic.
I love that scene. You guys remember that? That was a good night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was young. Anyway,
And the Naked Gun recreation too.
Oh, right.
So
Naked Gun 3 or something was that?
Oh yeah,
2.5. No,
2.5 probably. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
3 and a third. No, okay, whatever. Yeah.
So NASA's established the new. I don't know. It keeps surfacing. I don't know if it's the latest
UAPRT, right? The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Research Team. And there's like 6 of these new like UAP teams. Alien scientists. I don't know if you're still here, but Jeremy Reese. Let's do a thing soon. Maybe next week we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I want to hear him talk about this. So, okay, you can keep scrolling. I know there's some more interesting stuff down there. Keep going. Oh yeah, did you hear about this? Well, that's China, but the previous president of China, Hu Jintao, he was dragged out of his chair. Did you see that footage?
No,
it was crazy. I mean, basically, Xi Jinping is the current president, right? So he just got on his 3rd term, so everybody's congratulating him. But you see this old guy with the gray hair. He was the president of China between 2003 and 2013, and there's a whole.
Oh wow, they're really doing this right now, and then the president just has to watch this happen. He's like, "Ha ha, I'm gonna turn my head."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm not comfortable with it anymore. Drag him, take him to the firing squad."
This is the thing, like to compare Xi Jinping to like Winnie the Pooh is rude because Winnie the Pooh is way cooler than Xi Jinping. And no offense to Xi Jinping either. I'm just saying like he doesn't have the same
it's
vibe.
just Winnie the Pooh is that cool. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. He wants to sit down. He's like, I want to sit down. I said, no, you got to get out of here. Get the.
They're like, no, I don't want to get executed. I want to sit here in public. We're having the light.
I got 10 more years to live. I got 10 more years. So this is why this is significant, because Hu Jintao is actually, he made secret pact with Taiwan, the nationalists, who's not ruling the island anymore. Now Taiwan's ruled by a bunch of liberals, the Democratic Progressive Party. So this guy, he shook hands with the Nationalist Party in Taiwan, saying, "Hey, let's unite, and without going anything. Let's not get into wars, basically."
Come on, Xi Jinping. We've been friends. You know me. Help me out. Come on, guys. I served this country for my whole life, guys.
This is live. This is live.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just like, get the hell out of there. So,
dang, this is some Soviet shit right here. I can't even believe what we're watching. Whoa.
You won't be seeing this guy anymore. People forget about him.
This is not the China that I've come to know and love.
It's kind of surprising.
I really wish I had like they need to have the longest cane, so they could have just pulled him out like vaudeville. That would have been really cute.
Oh yeah, and this is the
yakety sax.
Okay, so Poland is starting to build a wall like what Trump wants to do to the Mexican border, because Poland is believing Putin's next move is to rush the border with a bunch of Africans and Asians.
Because like walls work really well. Yeah.
Before I nuke that country, I'm gonna throw a whole bunch of immigrants into
Did you see my post I did a couple days ago how wolves are racist? Where is this at? And also, that Kanye is Einstein, which I think is important. But let's see. And thank you guys for hitting the 20,000 subs. Pretty exciting. That's a fun thing. Borders are just imaginary lines that don't exist in nature. Quote. Nature. GPS tracking on 6 wolf packs show how much they avoid and respect each other's territory.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Do we have
walls.
Can we learn from them?
Wolves are pretty. We could be raised by wolves, but that is a show about AI. So just
right there you go. Wow, way to tie that.
That's pretty Scott, right? No. Yeah.
Wait, I gotta go back to your Twitter. There's more. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm really trying to see. Okay, let me just scroll for you because that UFC fight, right?
Fine, why not?
UFC with keep going. You see it. It's coming up.
This guy looks great.
This guy, the dirtiest man in the world.
Bum fights?
No, well, he said he's 94 years old, and then he finally took the only shower he's ever had, and he died. He's like,
Yeah.
He should have never taken that shower.
That's
He
the
died.
thing. It's totally.
Is
You
that
ever
like,
watch-
one of those engines that's like held together by the grime, and you go to
No,
like clean the
that's
grime
it.
off?
It
and then
was it was Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's relationship that lasted so many years until they got married, then had to split up like right afterwards. It's just
wonderful.
Dude, I don't know if you guys love like a Latino American experience as
It's an
much as I do.
awesome movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love this movie. This movie just gets you right in touch with your Los Angeles Chicano insider. But the deal is
My wife is gonna like it.
Oh yes. Yeah, you're gonna get laid. Sorry. Five people that love this suit in a window and can't afford it. But there's a trick. They can all buy the suit together, right? Actually, it's like 4 people and one of them's a bum in the street that they need to like clean.
Right, that's right.
This is the bum. And
Oh my God.
they give him, but he's got enough money to buy the other part of the suit. So they all get to share it, but they have to go and like wash him. And it's like, I've been taking a bath in 20 years, you know. And
Was this written by Larry David or something? Where
God only knows. I think it must be like
Well, is that Edward James Olmos? Is that Edward James Olmos?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's got Joe Montana. It's a pretty good movie.
Wow.
I don't know, but just that's a random sync to The Dirty Man, and yeah, great movie.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this one's interesting. It said
it's like a firmament or something.
No, I'm no flat earther. Okay, I just
I'm no flat earther or nothing, but this is a turtle, isn't it? We all know it's a turtle.
They said there's a force shield that they just discovered that's I don't know, blocking all the asteroids. But
look how bad Obama is, though, that you have to announce this with "I'm no flat earther" or nothing. But Fox News just
that's an old article. Sorry, that was from 2015, but I thought it was like the latest one.
No,
Anyway.
there's been some good stuff on the firmament. Actually, there's been some more information on the idea of the Van Allen belt being connected to. There's some sort of a radioactive VLF band also. So
Yeah.
there's something going on, and the fact that did we just talk about this UVA, UVB, UVC light? UVA, UVB, UVC, and here's the picture. So it used to be that the ozone layer would stop the UVC unless you were in Chile, and now the UVC is getting into the hypodermis in people. So the UVA, UVB have gotten into the hypodermis as well, and that's why you are supposed to be careful, I guess. I mean, who knows? Like sun worshippers telling you to be careful about the sun is pretty. I don't know what to say about it.
We just need more chemtrails to push this back a little bit. No.
Yeah, thanks, Bill Gates. That's a good point. I just want to touch your tot one bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the latest child molesting.
Dude, where's Kalen? Kalen, ask Kalen. My buddy Kalen was just in the splash zone. Hold on, how do I do this? Twitter. Ask Kalen. That's it. Where do I go? Ask Kalen. Where you at, bro? Where you at? People. He was just in the splash zone, not from her. Where's he at, dude? I don't know. Kalen did this thing though. This dude. Kalen Biden. Let me see if I can find it. There you go.
Oh,
So,
that one.
this is my buddy Kalen right here.
That one was weird.
The hat. Look at him. He's right next to him. I was this close to Trump once. But
I'm gonna set him up.
Hey, what do you say? The 30 not until you're 30. Well,
no serious guys until you're 30. I'm gonna tell you some advice. No serious guys until 30. And then she's like, okay. And the mom's like, what do you say? He's like, no serious guys until you're 30. I'll repeat it. Very important thing I told my daughter and granddaughters. No serious guys.
See, what I don't get about this is just like, dude, doesn't he have like PR people that have like had a talk with him that are like, hey, Biden, I know you got this feeling like you're like just that grandpa that's like really touchy and whatever, but the times are changing and you want to be good with, like you'd think that he would have had that, but I guess he's just drawn. He just can't help himself. Somebody must have had that conversation with him, right? I mean, in like a way that wasn't on the attack, like, hey, people are thinking you're a pervert or whatever. No, just like, hey, just for good measure, like people, where is that? Like
he smells those fresh pineal glands, and he's just drawn to that essence to like maintain his youth.
That's how he either stays asleep or he gets awake. That's how.
I would love to know. What would Andreas Thompson say if he was around about everything? But like even like the adrenochrome, like his like I don't know. I'd be interested to know.
As long as they still seal that Hunter Biden laptop, we're never gonna get anywhere. Everything's in that laptop.
I've gotten
Break to you, but everything's all over everything now. That laptop's all over the internet. If you want to get a copy of it, you can. Just I don't think you want to have the physical copy of some of that illegal stuff. And his iPhone too, his iPhone records.
Dude, I can't believe I've watched Hunter Biden jerk off. I've seen him with all these women. It's like, like what age are we in where I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like that's.
Well, and the funny part is that you'll get in trouble for trying to find out what was on it, right? Which is like admittedly means whatever is on it was horrible, but
I don't know you guys follow on Twitter, but I was just like, there was like a couple of weeks there where I was just like, I could not get blasted with Hunter Biden's like escapades. The thing that I'll say that I said before is that the thing that really struck me is that in every single one of those videos, if I look at him, if I look at his eyes, he just looks so sad. And it just really seems to speak to like, okay, you've made it. Like you're there. Like, isn't this the place that you want to be? Like somehow, and it's like, no, it doesn't, man. It
his
just
brother's
really
dead.
sad,
his family's dead. He's got a secrets to keep himself alive. There's a reason why his dad thinks he's the smartest guy.
Bored, man. Like he doesn't know what to do with himself. He's like he smokes crack and he's not even getting like a thrill out of it. He just still looks bored. It's like, dude, Jesus.
He lost the love of his life. His sister-in-law. So
is that what it is?
Yeah.
His sister-in-law is okay.
He's been through a lot.
He's banging his sister-in-law. My goodness.
There's a lot going on in that whole thing. My God.
Cool.
Starlink alert: China testing anti-satellite nuclear weapons. That's fun. I just saw a Newsweek article article that was on nuclear rations.
This basic EMP. That's what it is. It's an EMP strike.
Their food. Where is it at? I just read this article. These are the food. Okay, so Newsweek 5 days ago. These foods are essential for nuclear war survival in the U.S. Because why would you write that article?
You know that the government bought 290 million. What's that tablet? The radiation pills.
Right.
I forgot what it's called, but you look it up. 290 million. I mean, does that include me? Is that the whole? America is like 300 million people, right?
Yeah.
You don't think that maybe there'll be like a Gulf War syndrome type issue with the? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a toss up, right? You're like, do I take the experimental pill or do I endure the radiation? What is?
It's probably not for you.
These
probably for them.
These headlines are always so telling too, because they tell you exactly what to think, which is usually the exact opposite. So it's like, here's why there's no reason to be alarmed.
Kind of does this simulate nuclear blast against? Come on, what's this all about? Nuclear blast against satellites. Computer experiments suggest warhead detonated in near space could disable threats. Well, that's fun.
And to fight against Elon Musk's Starlink, that's it. Because they really believe Elon Musk is the enemy, because basically he had the whole planet surrounded by Starlink. So China is not very pleased with that.
He's winning the Go game.
Yeah.
I'm no flat earther with the
This is interesting for flat earthers. Check this out. So if you go to Google Earth and try to map around the distance, right? So you can do that on a continent like Australia, but if you try to do it to Antarctica, and look what happens. I want to try this out, but just here you go. Now close that polygon, and then go. Boing.
Oh
yeah, and it's the same thing with the North Pole. It's the same thing with the North Pole, the Antarctic.
Eddie, you're trying to make me gay for flat Earth, and I love it.
Cave in.
So that's all the proof I needed. I'm in.
Oh man, what is going on, man? Anyways, it's a conspiracy.
I mean, there's definitely, no matter what you want to say about it, there's something weird about Antarctica, and they don't want you to know more. That's for sure. Stuck in the Grand Canyon, 21 stories underground.
It was an elevator shaft that it got stuck.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I don't know what happened to people.
That's bad news. People stranded 21 stories. Yeah, I'm sure at some point.
They got that vacation story that they were looking for, though.
Right, or they were all like secret agents and had to pretend that they were stuck underground when the thing, to do the meeting. It's Hyperborean underground meeting. 33. Who's 33, this guy?
New prime minister.
That's the replacement.
Oh no, he's the new prime minister.
Yeah.
I haven't even caught up on this yet.
Well, there's a WD.
He's not elected because the Johnson was the other one, the blonde guy. He said no, I don't want to do it. And the woman, what's her name? She stepped down.
So he's gonna do it. I can see it. Yeah, but that's what they need.
he said he's going to push for the cashless society. Basically, he said they're done with the cash.
Yeah.
So.
It was just smart because then the people won't have to use the Royals checks, anymore, which is all the notes are at this point.
And they don't have to print. They don't have to print Charles' big head on the dollar bills anymore.
Yeah, when royalty pays for stuff, they have like these certificates, and like it's really weird, man. Like they don't pay with like cash. Like it's its own type. It's its own currency. Like it's like royal currency. Do you know about this? If you go on, and the only reason I know about this is because when I went to Savile Row, and Andrea Gallard did the tailored my coat, they're all over the wall. Like they're framed, like they're I don't know what they called them, but yeah, they're like basically like a document because this isn't it. But yeah, no, they're like it's weird. They buy something from somebody, they don't use cash. If you got it directly, like you're getting, Prince Charles wants to buy an outfit or whatever, he like doesn't give them like, regular paper money. He gives them like this special like document thing. It's weird. Anyway.
Our secret ingredient is people. Gosh, McDonald's. Sage Spacewalk accidentally exposed. What about this one?
That one, yeah, that one's kind of dubious, but I don't know how to think of this one. This footage.
Oh, the thing when they're like walking and it's like, they're setting up. This is in the background, setting up the stuff for the shot, right? So
that's supposed to be the glow, behind.
Those guys, that's hilarious.
Setting it up.
House of Dragon 93.
Yeah. So 90. Yeah, there you go. 9.3 million viewers. Here goes magic. So,
right.
Oh, don't forget about these. They're just from the comic book, which kind of predicted the whole COVID. It's called the Martha Goes to Washington.
Yeah.
It's written by Frank Miller and arts by the artist.
Legit.
Gibson.
Yeah. Which is that's. Okay.
The Surgeon General takes over basically.
That quote at the very end, could you pull up that quote that he had, where it says that crime is not a disease is a crime?
Yeah.
That harkens back. There's a book called Arawan that was written in the late 1800s by Samuel Butler, and wrapping back to the AI sync. It's actually one of the first fiction books that describes AI. Within the book Arawan, there's a miniature book called The Book of Machines. And it kind of describes like all these rules on how AI should work. But anyways, in this utopian society that used to employ these machines, they actually have made it illegal to get sick. And what this does is they make sure that there actually is a permanent utopian society where there's no invalids, there's no old people, there's no one that's ever sick. Because the second any of those things happen to you, you literally go to a jail, like a criminal would go to a jail. And this actually eliminates crime. It eliminates any kind of like bad health. And obviously it's like a statistical, just like, you're like cooking the books a little bit. But that's a very real premise. And I don't know, that harkened back to me right here for this.
I wonder if that inspired Zardoz, because remember in Zardoz there's the old people paradise, and they throw all the old people into the prison like the old gods.
I've spent a number of nights wondering what the hell inspired Zardoz. So that's as good a reason.
I think it was a designer drug that we don't
talk about here.
Yeah, no, I mean it's like,
but it was fun.
Half adrenochrome, half Quaaludes, right?
Yeah, there's that you summed it up, man. That was like a pharmacist prescription. Good job.
I saw this movie on NBC when I was in New Jersey when I was 4-year-old. I saw it on TV. My parents were.
I knew we had something in common.
No, it explains everything about you.
I watched the entire movie by myself. I don't know where my parents were, and
and you still got married. Like, see, that's the thing. I think this movie
it shaped my life. It actually, what? I never figured out what the name of the movie was. I was frustrated. It's embedded in my brain, like it burned in my brain. And then until college, in Cal Arts, there's a film class called Outrageously X. Why? Basically, it's a film analysis class saying why are these movies so outrageously X-rated. So basically, the whole class is watching all these outrageous 60s movies with nudities and everything, and then all of a sudden this movie came up. I was like, wow!
Hey, I have a request. I have a request for anybody listening or you guys. What is the movie with Sean Connery and Leslie Nielsen, where I don't know how big of a part everybody, whatever, but there's a bomb at the World Trade Center on top of the World Trade Center, and they disarm the bomb, and then because there was an attempted terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Oh, there we go. Oh shit,
Right.
Okay, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, so like they use that as a justification to go to a war with the Middle East. And
look at that quote too. If it doesn't happen on TV, it means nothing.
This is crazy. There's a whole thing. Yeah, they got like the whole. Do I choose between the red and the blue wire when they're disabling the bomb with Sean Connery? And it's like I'm looking at Joaquin and Boaz on top of Boaz. It's weird as hell. Yeah.
Dude, and the pillars or bimbos. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think the president is Leslie Nielsen. So tying back, and also Leslie Nielsen did 2001: A Space Travesty, which isn't one of his best, but synchronistically it belongs in there, especially because Airplane 2 was also heavy on the 2001 stuff. So yeah, I feel like they did actually sneak some profundity into at least Airplane 2.
I bet O.J. Simpson's in it too, right?
OJ's not in this one.
Capricorn 1, right?
The Saturn toilet bowl, brilliant.
I think you may have been busy when they wanted to do this one.
Oh yeah, Capricorn 1's always.
Have you ever heard of Operation Avalanche?
It's that?
It was kind of like a not a well-known movie, but an awesome movie, and it was made by one of the guys that was in Nirvana, the band, The Show, which was a Comedy Central show, I think. No, it's a movie called Operation Avalanche. But
right. Yeah,
there we go.
Oh wow!
And the premise is that like they show up as like documentary crew filming the CIA and NASA trying to do the film landing, and then they realize that they don't have the capability to do it or something, and then they take it upon themselves to like fake the moon landing. This is, if you haven't seen this, it is well worth hunting down. If you haven't,
it's not a lie if you believe it. All right, that's cool.
Operation Avalanche. Yeah, I gotta write this down.
Yeah, I'm sure if you go watch series. Have you guys seen Vanishing Point?
Yes.
That just came up because Martin Liedtke had recommended it, and it's an interesting. I can't show that picture, but I'll leave it up anyway. It's historical. So this movie about a guy in a Dodge Challenger who was a cop, and he was a Vietnam vet, and he's just got the all-American post-traumatic stress. Like he meets pretty girls, but he can't like them because he remembers seeing girls getting molested by other cops in the car. He can't open up conversations because he remembers all the horrible things he's been through. It's just like
like a Clockwork Orange kind of MK Ultra programming, right? Aversion therapy.
It's like telling you, like, you know, Americans are always like, you got to live fast, die hard, and action, live, being a hero, go through all this action, and then what that does is it makes him so he's like a Civil War vet who's ready to die. You know what I mean? Like he's so numb on the inside because he's lived through so much, which is kind of like when you smoke so much crack that you're bored, right?
Smoke yourself sober, yeah.
Yeah, the Jaded.
Jeez, all these films are just
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, so Capricorn 1 I have on the website synced with Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. You're talking about Wish You Were Here before
that's cool. I never even thought that anyone synced anything with that movie.
And so yeah, I did that, and then Vanishing Point, there's Death Proof. Tarantino's Death Proof references Vanishing Point heavily, and so I have that with Eagles of Death Metal had an album that came out, I believe, the same year called Death by Sexy, and so Death by Sexy, completely Strange Attracts, Death Proof, so that's up on the website too. But yeah,
cool.
Word. And yeah, guys, you can get a lot of David's content from the syncbook.com. You go to the Syncbook. You click on the Sync Flicks, and then there are just a slew of movies to go through here. Light Your Own Damn Candle, pretty fun one actually.
That's my friend and I. That's my friend's music. We did that with Saint Maud. So yeah.
What did you pair? You paired up Star Trek Troopers with what? Let me see.
That's one of Andreas's favorites, actually.
Yeah, Super Troopers with ABBA. ABBA Super Troopers with Starship Troopers is really good. We got to do something though where we can put the text so I can do search by the word and find the videos. I think that would make
I think we technically have that, but I don't know. I have weird titles for all this stuff, so it's not like I put in just the name of. I think I need to do a description for each one. That might help in the search. Like if I just have the name of each thing, so you can find it easily.
Right. There we go. Kubrick is here. Capricorn 1 found that one.
Yeah. There you go.
Very good.
Why I'm interested in Star Trek Troopers because I'm trying to compile things together because of Van Diem, the actor,
Mhm.
whose name Casper Van Diem. He was married to the Augsburg. Augsburg. She was her mother is the princess of Serbia or something like that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and it also is linked to their granddaughter was sucked into that cult, that sex cult, the MV
Nexium.
Nexium. So there's a connection, very strange over there.
Did you watch the Omega Code?
Is that Nazi?
Oh, really? You guys, this is like one of the most Casper Van Diem movies, and I think it's shot on like super cassette or something. I don't even know if it was really shot on film.
Oh, that's how he met his wife. That's why they met each other, right?
On Omega Code.
Yeah,
so the whole point of the movie is that he is a mathematical scientist genius in LA or something, right? And he figured out that the Bible has a code in it. And now in the future of 1998 or something, he's able to use machines in order to figure out what that code was, the Omega Code in the Bible. And
this is like the premise of Pi by Darren R.
Pi.
Right?
This is Pi for Goyams. Exactly what it is.
Okay.
And it's kind of Christianized because they have to deal with the Antichrist. Let me see if I get Antichrist.
Alpha and Omega.
The Antichrist is played by the dude from, what's his name? From
oh God.
Yeah.
So is this like a Christian propaganda film? Is this like in the same vein as like Left Behind or something? What is
it? That's what I thought it was, but the more I watch it, the more Gnostic it gets. I'll tell you.
Okay. Do they give like a number? What do they have? Is it like what's their deal? Like you said a code. Do they give a code? What is it?
Well, it's a special algorithm that he has to use in his machine, but then from there you can get what the data is in every Bible verse, and it tells you like when this is happening, what's happening. But this guy, he becomes the Antichrist because he like dies and the devil takes over his body. He's this beautiful.
Logan's Run.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Logan's Run.
Logan's Run. Yeah.
Yeah.
His name, I keep forgetting. And he's in Austin Powers too.
Oh, I got a Logan's Run sync on my page too, by the way, with ELO's world record. What is it? One world record or new world record? Whatever.
Michael York.
Yeah.
Michael York.
So he becomes the Antichrist, moves to Rome. So there's a Vatican conspiracy. Everything else.
That's exactly what I'd expect from the Antichrist.
Yeah, it's a good movie though. It's totally underrated for whatever reason. Probably because it's the truth,
Totally.
Definitely better than Left.
The Pie for Goyim. I'm sold. I'm gonna watch it. I need to look like a Cliff Note version.
Dude, right? Yeah. Well, Paranoid American. I'm gonna send them to your links. Thank you for being here, by the way. I appreciate it. And anytime you want to come back, we'll set it up again. So.
Yeah, I'd love to, man. There's so many topics we can get into deep too. Like especially if you ever get into adrenochrome, definitely have me on.
We'll do.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we'll do it. So what I want to do is I want to do a Hunter S. Thompson thing pretty soon. So I was gonna watch the Gonzo doc, and then we can talk about Hunter and adrenochrome.
I want to hear what he had to say.
What? Oh, I was just saying that I'm just deep in adrenochrome.
What's that? Are you asking what Hunter S. Thompson had to say about adrenochrome? It's in Fear and Loathing.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little lag here. Hey, did you see that last video of the rapper? What's his name?
Coolio?
Died. Coolio.
I did. And he brought up adrenochrome. That's right.
Video. And he said.
Yeah, this video here.
No, I think he was actually talking about chrome tires, man. It's like that was what he actually says is not adrenochrome. It sounds like he's saying adrenochrome like slang, but you look it up and he's talking about fucking
Are you sure?
hubcaps, man. Some shit.
Maybe.
That's not what you mean.
Type in what he actually said and see what comes up, because I did that and then I saw like that there was like fucking fancy hubcaps and shit.
I think he just doesn't know. He doesn't know how to pronounce. He doesn't know how to
pronounce
the word.
Maybe
he said drink. He said drink your chrome, right? Drink your chrome. That's what he said.
No, he said some. Yeah, you can. Andreas can hear it. I guess.
I'm gonna do something for the first time. New segment I'm gonna do every day. I'm gonna call. I'm cool on that. I'm cool on today. What I'm cool on today is something that's obviously wrong, or something you obviously see something going on, and someone brings it to your attention, You sit there and argue them down about how it's not true. I'm cool on that. For real. Because some things are make believe, some things are fictional, some things are fake, and some things we don't know, like hubcaps. Something's obvious whether you know it or not.
It's probably talking about adrenochrome here. Okay, yeah. You look at the context, man.
Cryptic as hell, man.
Then why would you argue about it?
Man, the crypts.
Okay. I can go head on and go on home and drink your antichrome.
Antichrome. Look up antichrome.
He doesn't know how to
go home and drink your antichrome.
He doesn't say drink. I gotta hear it again, man.
Yeah, he says go on home and drink your antichrome.
That's the problem. He doesn't know how to spell that word. He completely pronounce it.
Yeah, they've just been giving it to him, maybe. Although there is something called antichrome. What does it say?
Some this and that gave me this shot of
abandoned, no statement of use by the Surgipath medical industries. Well, that sounds real. That sounds like this is True Blood, probably. This is
that's probably what it actually is.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, I just thought that Thomas might not have seen this.
No, I haven't seen that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm currently trying to make like a full, I'm not even kidding, like a full index of every pop culture reference to adrenochrome because surprisingly, before the last 2 years, it was always referred to like almost subtly, never by name, and then in the last I think the Pentavariate or Pentavariate, which was with Michael Myers, and maybe like a couple before that, there was a movie called Adrenochrome that was like a kind of like a B horror movie, sort of. Before that, almost every reference to it was almost limited to Drenchrome from Clockwork Orange, and then there was some other like direct reference in Fear and Loathing Las Vegas is one of the most famous ones of adrenochrome, but like that all ties again, dude. This all ties back to Aldous Huxley again.
Right, I was going to say Aldous Huxley is the one who,
because in Doors of Perception, he kind of like miscategorized adrenochrome along with mescaline and a few others. He mentioned in mescaline, but what was actually happening is that adrenochrome got misclassified because they thought at the time that someone that had dementia or dementia precox, which they used to call it, which is like a whole litany of issues, but that they had this elevated level of adrenochrome in their blood. And the theory was that if you took the blood of a schizophrenia patient and then injected that into someone normal, then they would start tripping out because now they had like a temporary dementia brought on by the adrenochrome. But that word of schizo blood that also comes up in like a William Gibson novel, I believe.
Can't you just buy adrenochrome? Isn't it not even?
You can. So actually, I'm glad you brought this up because this is a slight tangent that I would love to go on elsewhere. But anyone here familiar with the entourage effect when it deals with like cannabinoids and terpenes and THC? Anyone familiar with that?
Turpentine, you said?
Not turpentine, but so the basic premise of the entourage effect is that when you consume marijuana, it's not just THC and it's not just CBD. There's CBG and CBH and all these other things, and there's also the terpenes, which is why
entourage. Okay,
the entourage effect.
You just pronounced it more French than me. Good job.
So the entourage effect is if I can summarize it in an oversimplistic way, it's that it's not just THC that gives you like the full experience. It's the THC and everything that plant combined naturally, all the different terpenes and the ratios between the terpenes, just everything. And this is known as like the entourage effect. And it's that all of those extra unknown factors that we didn't even know about half of these a few decades ago. We just kind of knew about certain main ones. But now we realize that this kind of like intermingling of many different things comes together and gives you that full effect. So the reason I bring this up is that just like you can order THCA distillate and you can, probably get high off of it, it's not the exact same thing as when you have like the whole plant, fully kind of like frozen and state and pressed so that it's like the entire, factory to farm or farm to factory, farm to table kind of concept. So yes, you can order adrenochrome in crystalline form directly, but it would not be the same as that entourage effect of getting not just the adrenochrome, but as that adrenaline is oxidated, it creates adrenochrome, but it's also probably creating like a whole bunch of other undetectable things. So that would be the difference between getting like that fresh supply versus something that's been
So
sitting.
what was that show? What was that show True Blood about? Was that show about vampires that were in power releasing a synthetic so that they could disguise the fact that they were still getting adrenochrome from living humans? I think it was.
What's the drug that makes you go under, so to speak, and you don't remember what you like? You can participate in things, but you're like kind of unconscious. Like it's like a hypnosis drug.
You're talking about the nightshade from Colombia.
Scopolamine.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. So is that like a combo thing? Like they give you this and then they give you that, and you take it. Like
it's interesting you bring it up because there's a thing called coupe de poudre or powder coup, which is the if I can only find the.
But Vice made a whole documentary about it.
True, but the thing is that in Haiti, right? Can I find the word anywhere? In Haiti, they do this all the time, and they make it with a lot of stuff. So you can use scopolamine, and scopolamine is very important. God, where is it? Coop?
You're talking about the pufferfish?
That's one of the sort. That's another one. You ever heard Serpent in the Rainbow, which was a book that turned into a movie? It's kind of on this same aspect where they don't mention scopolamine by name, but it's the same sources.
Here, ethnobiology. There you go. Ethnobotomy of ethnobiology of voodoo zombification. So it's not
and
just
the Navy was also using this for the same reasons. Sure. They were trying to use it in interrogation techniques early in the 40s and 50s.
The puffer fish has a chemical in it that they used often as well, which would keep you from moving.
It happened to in Japan, because people will eat the fugu fish and then they get poisoned, and the next thing it turned into zombie state for like 4 or 5 days.
But it's terrifying unless you take scopolamine, makes you not so freaked out about it. So that was so there's a combination.
So what I was told, and I'm not going to say the name here, I don't think, because I'm doing it. I don't know if you'd appreciate it, but I was told from somebody who would be in a position to know more than most people that the way that it goes, that this was on a tour bus for a basketball team. So you might put that together.
Oh, interesting.
So somebody on the tour bus was going off about how you get invited to a mansion and you show up at the mansion and you're immediately given a drug. This is the first time I've heard of scopolamine. And that basically you participate in things that you don't remember. And they lock the doors behind you. They do different things for different people, depending on the particulars or whatever. You receive a message after this whole thing happens, and they have you for life, basically. So it's tailored. So like you are blackmailed forever that if you don't go with the program of whatever, these guys got you by the balls. And it's not just, they'll threaten your family or whatever. That stuff happens too. But it's that you participate in something that also what works on it is all the shame and the weirdness around it. So
Epstein's Island with
scopolamine. Years ago, I was informed this from somebody whose words on the matter I would take with more consideration than most people. And so, people on the bus kind of like scoffed at it. They're like, oh yeah, whatever. And then said person sat down and took more in of the information. It basically was told, if you ever get an invitation to go to that seems even the slightest bit fishy, you're showing up by yourself at some big fancy mansion, be aware that you could end up getting ensnared in this blackmail. And that basically blackmail is so prevalent, it's like the biggest elephant in the room, in terms of elite society, because it works. And people, when it comes to your reputation, is everything.
So the Bavarian Illuminati was founded on blackmail. Wouldn't have existed without it.
You know that from that book I was mentioning last week, right? Proofs of a Conspiracy. Is that what you're? We know that came out in court. That's not, So
and David, I can corroborate because I have a friend. I don't talk to him much anymore, but he was a VP in the not NBA but NFL merchandising, and he's told similar stories. That he actually brought his daughter on such transportation, and basically got the entire family got hooked and blackmailed, and it's crazy. I mean, the story is true. I absolutely believe it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfect example too. The Eyes Wide Shut is essentially what we're describing. And I've got a comic I'd love to show, but it is not appropriate for a stream.
Dude, I had some back and forth with Mandy for a while. The actress, I forget her name now, who plays Mandy. She's really right wing at the time. It's like 2016 or something. And I'm not, I wasn't right wing enough for her. So, but I did I did ask her like straight up. I was like, "Are
Here
you the
me.
girl at the end who's like, do you realize what you're taking upon yourself by doing, like the one who sacrificed herself and who does that is the same actress. Like people debate on it. They're like, are those the same tits? Yes, they're the same tits. The same woman, at least according to the actress herself. But yeah, I don't know why she would lie about it. So
Andres, can you go to just look for the picture? Eyes always shut. The morgue.
The morgue, yeah.
Okay, but I don't want to. Well,
how you spell morgue? But...
Well, no, the UE. Yeah, there you go.
David, thanks.
So okay, but I don't tap into it because my censor you. But that number is 19. That's Mandy, right? The dead woman, right?
Yeah.
So that.
Oh, you're saying the drawer in which they pull her out from? Yeah.
Yeah, it's number 19. I made a whole post about it because it kind of fell in place with the COVID-19 synchronous.
Yeah, it's the sun. COVID-19. The whole thing. Coronavirus is a crown. The crown is the rays of the sun. So you have the sun card in tarot is the 19th arcana. I mean, this was May of 2020 sync discussion. That was oddly censored because I guess for some reason sync doesn't fall into the official narrative and they don't like you talking about weird synchronicities. But yeah, there you go. Tangled, it's the name. It's in Corona is the name of the band. And then it's all about isolation and
yeah. I was gonna say there's a girl who's isolated. That's pretty much pretty good one. I was like, oh man, they really.
Yeah, you notice the scene in this movie when she's going down to to steal the crown, and then the guy sneezes. And he goes, the dude about to steal it sneezes, and then he says, "Hay fever." So it's just there's like fever connect. There's a bunch of stuff in this.
Where do they live again? Where do they live? Corona.
That's
the name of their city. Yeah.
Yeah. For the crown. Yeah.
Look the spider in the background. Did anyone see that spider there?
Yeah. I've tripped on this whole.
And if you look at the pan, it's not a representation of the Gal pan. And also,
or the Giant Dipper in Orion. I mean, you could go anywhere you want with that.
It's because if you flip the D too, or if you flip the P, you get the D, and then that's Dan, and you have he's Dan in real life. He's actually Pan in real life, and it's this whole thing.
And what's up with that lizard? And what's up with the chameleon? I mean,
you can't have a Disney movie without some anthropomorphic Egyptian magic characters. That's the way it works. And so.
Doesn't matter what it is.
It's a chameleon, not a lizard, so you can change. He's a lizard, but he's a chameleon.
Well, so she kind of, okay. Yeah.
Karma chameleon, right?
I wanted to say it, and then I held it back. And you.
Okay, Andres, my last post. Can you go to the mailbox, Twitter?
Yeah,
we missed this one, but Dojo Cat, right? Dojo Cat, what's her name?
Mm-hmm.
She just celebrated her 27th birthday.
Really?
Yeah. 27 Club.
And look at how she dressed. But since we're on topic with Eyes Wide Shut, go to the next picture.
Dude, I really wish I had done this for my 27th birthday. I just went to a Growlers concert. Oh, that's amazing!
Black Nobility mask.
The nation.
You know what though? If you survive, you should flaunt it. I feel if you got life, you should flaunt life. That's
maybe this is her last year. Maybe she just got a few more days. I don't know.
Yeah, 28 with Heath Ledger. You never know. So,
aren't people saying that she got replaced? Isn't that the idea? That it's a subliminal way of communicating that she's no longer and somebody else is I don't know.
I hope
is she American or is she British? She's American, right?
She's American. She's half.
So that should have been an Eastern Star logo, not a Freemason logo.
Her mother's Jewish and father's black. I don't know if there's any British family traits, but
interesting point. Yeah,
I think maybe did they change that for Freemasonry, or is it still this strictly solar? I mean, that's pretty rudimentary.
In America, it's true. In America, but in Britain, there's the universals.
Co-masonry is now the standard in England, but not in America.
Right.
Legit. All right. Well,
sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna give the full little pitch because you had ParanoidAmerican.com here. This is where you can see maybe honestly less than a quarter of my library, but you can read the ones you see here, some samples for free. If you go on Amazon and search for Paranoid American, you'll find a few other comics that are on here. Secret Mystery School, I've got a bunch of coloring books for like kids, American Cryptids, one called Paranoid Portraits that's got portraits you can color in of Manly Palmer Hall, Jim Jones, Marshall Applewhite. And this is probably one of my favorites. This is a based on Chick Tracks, but it's an entire backstory of MK Ultra, tracing it from paperclip all the way to modern day.
Wow.
With all kinds of examples, dates, names, times. I try to make it as entertaining and illustrated as possible, but also completely factual. Like this particular pamphlet doesn't go into any sort of outlandish speculation. It's all things that can pretty much be verified by Church Commission and other research.
It's the great thing about MK Ultra is you don't have to pull out any it's all there.
It's pretty weird already. Yeah.
So here's my Time Sampler series. There's a whole bunch of different series you can just check out on here. And then I was going to mention my @ParanoidAmerican on Instagram is where you can see all my brand new latest stuff. So one of the big ones is The Chosen One, which is a comic series with
Chosen One
One-on-One podcast. So they're that very first one. They're going underground into Hollow Earth, where they're going to end up in a place called Tartantia, which is sort of the and it's called Tartantia because it tain't quite the surface, but also tain't quite the inner earth, so it's Tartantia. And this is
a lot of humor in these guys, huh?
Yeah.
It's your whole deal. Wow, man. Wow.
So this is your own publishing, right? This is all your
own.
I've
been doing this since 2012. It started with just writing. I was working at Disney at the time, and I was surrounded by amazing artists. I pretty much did animation, and I did like custom tooling and boring software to make the animators' jobs easier. But I'm looking around like,
how do you spell Phineas and Ferb, dude?
Yeah, so that was one of the
shout out to everybody.
We worked on.
Everybody, every kid in America loves this. So you've already got an in for the next generation. They're gonna be listening.
Phineas and Ferb. We did a lot of ADR in the studio. It was a place called Ideas in Orlando that we used to be located on the actual back lot of MGM Hollywood Studios, and then they moved off and then just kind of like retained a lot of the animation work and the ADR work. It was awesome working there.
Actually, I heard that they're gonna send people back to Florida again. If we did, there's a whole bunch of my friends are gonna go. Yeah, because the Empire Studio, the Empire building.
Yep.
I think they're gonna empty it out. I was working that building. My last Disney job was the Elena of Avalor, the Latina princess show. Anyway, that was my last job, but yeah, they're gonna ship everybody back to Florida. It's kind of
let's go. I mean, the building's awesome there. It was the Roy O. Disney building, and right next to that was the animation, and they have this huge sound recording studio with Foley and everything. It's an amazing place to be.
Yeah.
We gotta get Weird Al, Tad Stones, all of us, and then we'll make like the gnarliest magical cartoon that Disney's just not ballsy enough to make this season. I guess I don't know. I mean, they canceled DuckTales. They need us. That's the fact. But.
I tried to invite my friend and he wouldn't come on.
Yeah,
he's a supervisor. He's a supervising storyboard supervisor. He wouldn't come
because he knows we know the truth, and he's like, "Oh God, if I say it, we're gonna get in trouble."
Start dropping those Disney Demolate links,
dude, and make sure I did that. That's the problem. You shouldn't have shown him the video of me talking about Demolay origins and Rosicrucian Egyptian magic of Disney. That probably was the one that freaked him out.
If you look up, I did a show on Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli where I talked about Disney's connection with Demolay for about 2 hours and all the Rosicrucianism that was based in a lot of like the old Grimm's fairy tales that got brought back to animation. So
thank God you did. I was gonna do something. I'm on Sam's show on Monday, on Halloween Monday, which is going to be cool. And I think we're going to be talking about sound and things like that. But I wanted to do something about Disney a while ago with him because I looked into where the Mickey came from and slipping a Mickey and everything like that. And this bartender who murdered people with roofies called Mickey, and he was also called Mickey the Rat, and that Walt Disney had gone through Chicago. And that was a big, because he was so pissed about Oswald the Rabbit. He's like, I'm going to get him. And then
did Tracy Twyman reference that part in her thesis? Do you know Tracy?
I knew her.
Did you ever meet Tracy Twyman? Did you communicate with Tracy Twyman while she was
alive? But she passed away like a year ago too, right? Yeah.
So, quite a while ago. But no, I can't find for the life of me this amazing interview that she did about her trip with the Mickey and Mickey Mouse and Rosemary's Baby and Frank Sinatra and what did you do to its eyes and blue eyes and how the whole, because she didn't know if her kid was Frank Sinatra's or Woody Allen's, and she got pregnant during the shoot of Rosemary's Baby, and she's all this stuff, but incredible stuff. But I found some writing of hers online. It took me a bit, but of that particular trip of hers. So I actually want to send it to you at some point here. So I'm gonna find it in my hard drive. I'll get it to you, Andreas.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
Oh yeah, you too, Eddie. You'd probably, and you too, if anybody wants it.
I found some of her lost interviews on Rumble actually. So
really?
Yeah, you can look through. Yeah. I'm not saying there's a lot, but
no, somebody may have re-uploaded it. This was like a year ago or longer. So I was trying to find this one interview that I'd heard. That was like a 3-hour interview. Oh, I think I found it, but they removed the version that had all the visual aid. Just somebody did a really good job, Andreas style, where they just conveyed everything that she was talking about visually, and I couldn't find it again. I was like, "Fuck, where is that?" But yeah, okay, Rumble, huh? I'll look into it.
Once we find the file, you guys can go to the Discord and you'll find in the Synctank channel, everyone's tweets right now are automatically posting. So you can see all of the synchronous tweets and all of the synchronicities there. And anything that David's posting is going there as well. When we find the link, we'll make it public, and then you guys can just find it right here on the Discord. So that'll be easier.
Cool.
Legit. Well, guys, I guess we did it. We're 3 hours deep. I love you guys. Let's do it again soon. Dude, Thomas, it was a pleasure. I can't wait till we do this next time. And
thank you. It was nice meeting Eddie, David, everyone. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, guys.
You, man.
Peace.
All right.